Here at Daytona, time plays tricks on your mind, slowing down and speeding up in ways that seem irrational. You expect that for a crewman in the pits, time is going to creep by, and it does. And it's no surprise that a driver who has just finished a 90-minute stint will think he's just begun it. But often time seems to live by other rules, as if affected by tides or phases of the moon, but more likely by the various stages of the race. For most people, it slows down at dawn and dusk. In the dead of night, around the race's halfway point, time seems almost to stop. The green flag and the checkered one seem unfathomably far away. The hours and minutes that are the conventional means of expressing the passage of time, merely an abstraction.
The Rolex 24 at Daytona. Welcome back to Speed's live coverage of this great endurance event from Daytona Beach, Florida. Two great endurance events run in Florida every year, Sebring and Daytona, not that far apart. And with the merger of the American Le Mans Series and the Rolex Sports Car Series in 2013, consider it the 36 Hours of Florida. Let's take a look at Daytona International Speedway.
Well, you know, we've seen there's no easy parts of this track. Obviously, the banking is where you get a little bit of arrest and so forth, but the traffic, negotiating that, trying to avoid contact, dropping wheels and so forth, the infield and the bus stop is really where people are focused. But we saw the failure on the 30 car on the banking. There's no rest for driver or machine anywhere on this 3.56 miles.
Well, and you talk about the keys to victory in some of those key corners. Well, let's take a quick look back. Talk about what we talked about in the very beginning. Be ready. We've seen that with several of the teams. Mike Shank, they've gotten that car back, and they're staying in the game. Key 1 and 2 right there. Keep it fresh. That's the key. That's where we're headed right now in these final hours.
Yeah, stay in the game. We had some guys get back in the game, which you used to not be able to do, but given the way it is now, so everyone's trying to line up for that last sprint. You know, we saw a brake pad change there at the very end with the 01. Current leader, though, is Hunter Ray. We're going to watch the brake situation on the 10 versus the 01. But, you know, this is nerve-wracking. You know, it's a little bit like, with this dash for the finish, it's a little bit like having an Ironman and then it being decided by a one lap, a 440 sprint or something like that. But that's the nature of the deal right now. Everybody's known that for a number of years. Now, to that end, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's very well possible that pit position leading to track position could determine the outcome of the GT field or the Daytona prototypes. Not as many bunched together, but look, the guy's having to pull the cars back, and so theoretically someone could get out in front of someone else based on where their pits are, and track position being important, maybe hold someone off for the win.
Typically the pits are aligned Daytona prototype, then GT every other stall, but there are so many more GT cars that as you get down to the far end of pit lane, it's GT stacked nose to tail. 0-1 having a good run. It seems to have been trouble-free. They just changed brakes. Jamie, what kind of car did Memo Rojas hand over?
Memo Rojas just got out of the car. Memo, we saw that brake change just happen. How much of that was out of need and how much was precaution?
Well, you know, the team keeps track of how are we doing with brakes. You know, the last run for me, they asked me to back off the pace a little bit on their braking. They were concerned, you know, about the brake work. But obviously, with 3 hours to go, we got new brakes. We should be set, and you know, just to be careful and take the car home.
What kind of condition is the car in, other than the brakes at this point?
It's pretty good. I mean, we've been fortunate that we've stayed out of trouble most of the race, except for that off-road excursion that Charlie had early in the race. But car's good. You know, we just need to keep the nose clean. It just picked up a little bit of understeer when the sun came up, but the car's good.
The 01 looking for their 5th win in the last 8 years, Andrew Marriott.
Yeah, I'm with Wayne Taylor. Wayne, you think there's some gamesmanship, or should we call it Ganassi-manship going on? Tell us your story.
Well, I mean, don't you think it's a little strange that all of a sudden the two cars stopped on the track, and they 01 came in to change brakes under yellow? There's something not quite right there, but you know what? All I have to say is this. I want to thank Team Chevy, Velocity, Toshiba, all our partners. This team, we have beaten Ganassi on every single pit stop. We've executed as best we can, and we the power difference, and it's disappointing, but at the same time, I love the sport, and I love all the partners we have, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to win this for Team Chevy.
So just to clarify, you think there's nothing wrong, the car's just been stopped, this gamesmanship then puts the 01 back into the game?
Well, doesn't it sound strange?
I shall go and talk to Chip. Jamie.
I'll tell you something that's strange, Andrew. We are in the closing stages of this race, and the number 02 from Ganassi will not be going back out. It was in the drive shaft. The gearbox was just fine. The team now just doing some cleanup work. But again, the 02 car is finished.
Well, we're all looking at each other up here. Obviously, Wayne disappointed with what they felt the performance of the Corvette was coming into this event. We should point out that Brian Hunter-Ray is up front, but when you have two cars in a race, sometimes you can use strategy, but it seems right now that if the 02 was able to continue, Chip would certainly have it out there.
Yeah, you would think so. But you know, that's the nature of this sport. Their teams are not beyond funny business. You know, the stakes are high and there's only one winner, but you would think they would spin or something of that nature. You know, hard to say.
They wouldn't do that. I mean, you know, everyone's very, very tired. You certainly start seeing fairies at the end of the garden when you've been up for 20-odd hours in a race. And I'm not saying Wayne's seeing little pixies, but, you know, everything does seem worse than it really is. And I don't blame him for thinking that, but there is no way. Chip Ganassi and Ganassi Racing would rather lead and hand a car over and put it in the pits. So, I mean, I kind of liked his argument right up until I saw the 02 sitting there in the pit, and now it's done.
Well, this car has the fastest lap of the race. It was getting close to getting back on the lead lap. There's nothing that guarantees that the 01 isn't going to have trouble between here and the end. It's had a trouble-free run. That's where the theory kind of falls apart.
They're kind of moving slowly, though. And, you know, when mechanics move around slowly, it's not a good move. Jamie, you've got one of the drivers there.
Dario Franchitti debriefing with Juan Pablo Montoya a little bit. Dario, the day is done for this 02 car. What were the warning signs in the cockpit?
Nothing at all there. The gearbox is actually fine. We got all 5 forward gears. We just don't have any drive. So I came out of turn 1 there, and I heard a ping from the back of the car. I lost all the drive. So first thing I did was check. I still had gears, and I hadn't screwed the gearbox up. But no forward drive, and that's the end of our day. How disappointing is it for a team that drove all through the night, overcame the problems that you did have, and then to have this happen now? It's very disappointing. It's disappointing for everybody on the team. I mean, we could recover from the stuff in the night. This is terminal. We can't recover from it. And even if we could, it's too late in the day now, you know. So that's disappointing. We've had very strong cars. Both the team cars were strong. I will say, though, I think it's going to be a hell of a run to the finish. I think there's been a lot of complaining out there, but there's definitely been some sandbagging from the others, and it's kind of a boring thing to talk about. But I think there's a lot more stronger cars out there than we think. And I hear Montoya's finishing the race, so that should be some fireworks. Either way, it's going to be exciting to watch. Thanks, Dario.
It's been a pretty familiar theme all really month-long since the roar before the 24 back in early January. And obviously a star-studded group. Juan Pablo Montoya standing there talking to Marino Franchitti and Dario Franchitti. Marino was entered in one of the Speed Source Mazdas, the 70, with the Skyactiv diesel technology that unfortunately left the race a little bit earlier in the going. But you know, Chip puts a good team together, a good group together, and these guys, it's like you said, Tommy, I mean, the 01's out there and hadn't had a problem yet. You would want to keep the 02 going if indeed it was fixable. So
that's actually probably what makes Chip and the 01 guys nervous, is it's really been a trouble-free run. And so, you know, an incident like this, there's no way of knowing if this is what, but it sounds like an input shaft probably broke inside the transmission. That's exactly what would be stressed the most on those. If you don't do a tire change and you leave too hard on hot tires, you don't get any slip, really puts a shock through the driveline. So you have to worry about what might be right about to break on any of these cars.
The Audi R8 safety car dives to the pits, and the number 10, Ryan Hunter-Ray, leads the field of green.
The perfect start for him. He, you know, nice clean air as he goes by.
You see the 01, Scott Pruitt now behind the wheel, 4 cars back in the line. Right behind the 60, Marcus Ambrose behind the wheel of the 60, and Pruitt bobbles just a little bit in the 90. The two-tone blue Chevy Corvette driven by Antonio Garcia. really taking the fight to Pruitt. He's not going to give it up easily.
That seems to be about their only weakness. Pruitt referenced it, that he says it takes a little bit for the car to get going on cold tires. But once it settles in, they've got clearly the superior speed to everybody else. It's interesting to see. So now we pretty much have an idea what it's going to come down to. They're going to try to get Allmendinger in the 60. They're going to put JPM Montoya into the 01. Looks like you're going to have Max the Axe in the Wayne Taylor Velocity Worldwide car, and so it's starting to take shape.
All the finishes, all the hard closes that we've seen over the years are being lined up, which is great for everyone watching.
Top 6 cars all on this same lap. Ryan Hunter-Reay, Mike Rockefeller, Marcus Ambrose, Antonio Garcia, Scott Pruitt, Alan McNish. That is quite a list of drivers running right there. 64 lead changes in the event. That ties a record.
These are the guys leading up to the anchor leg, and you've got the name Hunter-Reay, McNish, Pruitt. Just shows how stacked. And the same thing it holds true in the GT class as well.
Mike Rockefeller second right now in the number 9 Action Express Corvette. A winner at Le Mans, a winner at Sebring.
I'm going to have to say, everyone's talked about the engine power during this race. Various team owners and drivers, they look pretty equal. BMW, Chevy, as they come past on the front straight here at this stage of the race. Everyone's tuned their cars. We've been seeing that through the night and early morning. Everyone's been tuning their cars. Very unusual, I think, for Daytona to see that level of in-race, tuning.
Yeah, and we see one of the contenders in GT heading down pit road, the 24 WeatherTech Audi. But the straightaway speed could well be the deciding factor. Track position, of course, important, but that superior top end that the BMW Riley that Chip Ganassi has and everybody else has been working on. All the other cars we've talked to have talked about how they're trying to optimize their straightaway.
Eduardo Mortera in the 24, the R8 from WeatherTech serving a penalty, and perhaps this is some type of infraction once again on the wave-by procedure, because this looks like a pretty lengthy penalty. Crew standing behind the wall, nothing that they can do. You see the official standing there still holding, and it seems like an eternity. There's a look at the 44. Andy Lally leading in the 44 from Magnus Racing. Understanding avoidable contact is the call on the 24, so he's serving that penalty. And that Magnus Porsche looks battered and beaten. They've replaced the front splitter. There's a mirror that's sagging off on the right side, but still running the pace.
It's interesting in that car because Lally is probably the most successful driver that you could have in their lineup in that car. And at this stage of the race, I wonder if he'll get out and then get back in for the close.
He's been in for a while. I'm pretty sure they're setting up. They did it last year with Richard Leitz. And so I remember Lally had very high praise for him last year, and so they're obviously teeing him up for the run. He's at one of the factory Porsche young shoes, and they're going to put him in. And so the fact that Andy Lally, the lead guy that's got 7 Rolexes, is not the guy they feel is the strongest for the last run.
Top 3 at GT right there, but you look at the front splitter on the 44. We know they had to replace it. It has a bunch of tape on it as well, and we've got 3 hours and 14 minutes to go. We say it over and over and over again. The car needs to be near perfect in order to win this thing, and he is being pursued heavily right now by Mark Wilkins in the 69 AIM FXDD Ferrari.
Yeah, we're going to see these guys navigate their way around that car.
And Pruitt taking advantage of traffic.
Just gained a position there from the 60. Coming onto the bank, you can see the way he has such a nice exit traction.
So give you a good view of the relative straightaway speed of these cars. And I said, we've heard the other guys saying they're working on optimizing it. It's not, you can get plenty of straightaway speed by laying the wing down within reason. The problem is braking is really affected by downforce, all these things. So there's no free lunch. You can't just say, oh, let's dial up the straightaway speed. You hurt something else more, and so net, they seem to have the best all around.
And of course, the start-finish line here at Daytona is a long way around at the end of a straightaway. 3 hours, 13 minutes and change to go, and Scott Pruitt is on the charge, trying to move to the front and take his record-tying 5th overall victory at the Rolex 24. Plenty of racing still to come from Daytona. A familiar phrase that we've used throughout the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Scott Pruitt leads in the 0-1. The BMW-powered Riley from Ganassi Racing. He just took the lead from Ryan Hunter-Reay, but it was not easy at all. And Tommy, you and I were talking about the level of frustration on some of these other drivers. Does that make it even more difficult for Pruitt? Ryan Hunter-Reay definitely putting up a fight.
He heads around the outside here. You think he's got it, but of course Ryan has got the inside line, and he goes, you know what? I'm going to use all the road that's rightfully mine.
Well, he drove it in way deep and almost couldn't get it stopped. And Pruitt had enough awareness to give him some room, so they didn't get together. But he's, you know, we said it before last night. I mean, Hunter-Reay is a fierce competitor, and so they're trying to win this. Whether, I mean, I don't believe in the conspiracy that they parked the 02 so they can put brakes on the 01. I will contend it was very fortuitous for the 01 if they really were getting a long pedal like Rojas said and need to get the brakes off that car. Whether it was good karma or conspiracy, whatever it was good fortune.
Well, they've had good fortune throughout this event. No problems as of yet for the 01. Now, Ryan Hunter-Reay was able to hold Pruitt off heading into one, but as they came back onto the banking, Ryan Hunter-Reay slides a little high, and once Scott's underneath him, it's done.
Yeah, I mean, the car, we're talking a lot about the top end advantage they have. It's not all there. It's, I mean, that was just the car is working really well, and he was able to hold it tight, get the power down better, and he was up next to RHR before he could defend.
Back live, Scott Pruitt now beginning to extend his lead a bit. It was 0.8 of a second at the line the last time by, with just over 3 hours and 8 minutes to go from here at the World Center of Racing.
But you know, it was impressive, that BMW just then. He pulled away. Ryan Hunter-Reay was able to suck back in underneath him as he overtook him. By rights, he should have held him in the slipstream down the back straight, and not a chance. He just was dropped like a stone.
And this time at the line, 1.6 seconds. So Pruitt able to pull out another 0.8 of a second in just a single lap over Ryan Hunter-Reay. And now Ryan Hunter-Reay has to be thinking about Mike Rockenfeller behind him, because Rockenfeller in the Corvette from Action Express beginning to close down. Rockenfeller's won this race before. You talk about the talent that he has. He's won at Le Mans. He's won at Sebring. He's won here.
Yeah, and he's got the bit between his teeth, hasn't he? I mean, this car hasn't had a trouble-free run at all, but it's very strong right now. And again, we don't really know where they are on their tire rotation, on their tire wear. And if Rocky's got slightly better tires, who knows? But I tell you what, we watched the 60 go through here with Ambrose. I mean, everyone is so close right now. This is the yin and yang of the stint, really. We're going to see the up and downs as tire wear, driver fatigue, track conditions.
You talk about the fatigue, and Tommy, you and I were talking about the frustration. If you hear it in Wayne Taylor's voice and the other teams up and down pit road, you know it's been imparted into their drivers. And what you hope is that the drivers don't let that frustration get to them on the racetrack. I can remember in 1995, I was very frustrated in the Trans Am series by a guy who just kept winning races. I don't know who that was, but you know, it can lead you to try to do stupid things, and I hope we don't see that today.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of these things. This is such a long race. You got so much to think about. I'm pretty sure they're tired enough that they're pretty much just focused on trying to get around. Afterwards, I think it will be the time where you'll have a lot of that would come out.
And obviously that Trans Am driver was you, and you know what it's like. People get frustrated. They start taking cheap shots at you, and it makes it difficult. And I hope it's not what it comes down to as Pruitt continues to lead over Ryan Hunter-Reay, Mike Rockenfeller, Marcus Ambrose, Antonio Garcia. That's the top 5 in Daytona prototypes. And Rockenfeller really hounding Ryan Hunter-Reay. But we talk about what a great season he had in 2012, winning the IndyCar Championship. While Rockenfeller may be close, I think RHR is pretty good with handling the pressure.
Yeah, he's certainly not going to fold under the pressure. I think he revels in it. You know, you heard in the clip after when we came back on the air this morning that he says, I think it's going to be a shootout amongst 5 guys, and it's going to be fun.
His car does look a little bit more nervous through the left-hander there, the fast left kink. Looks like his car's moving a little bit more than Rocky's car. But, you know, maybe it's on other places it's more balanced. But these guys, I mean, we just actually saw in the GT there, just to refer back, we had a mirror of this. In both classes, we have the top 5 cars sitting there all poised on the same lap. Amazing.
I think you may be right, Justin. Actually, when RHR came back onto the banking with Pruitt behind him, the car wiggled a little bit. One of the things that allowed Scott to dive underneath him and take the position away very quickly.
He could run pretty easily with you. It looked like that pace at least.
The Action Express cars seem very stable off the corner. The question is, and you were talking about downforce, where's your downforce? I mean, it could be that the 9 just has a little more downforce. It's a little more stable, but the top speed is a little bit less than the 10.
And even though these are both Corvettes, they're running different chassis underneath Corvette bodies.
3 hours, 4 minutes to go. Scott Pruitt once again up front in the BMW Riley from Ganassi Racing, looking to tie the record for the number of overall wins at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. We'll be back to more. February 22nd, the world's toughest truckers hit the high banks for the can't-miss truck race of the year. Strapped in for 250 miles of wide-open racing and a fight to the finish that's sure to take your breath away. Don't miss the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series from Daytona, February 22nd at 7 Eastern, live on Speed. Trucks are always awesome anywhere you go, but here at Daytona, it's definitely something to see. And second, third, fourth Daytona prototypes, they're right there. Ryan Hunter-Reay still holding down that point. And the last car in the serial there, Marcus Ambrose in the 60 from Mike Shank Racing. Remember, twice in this event, they've come from 7-lap deficits, and they're back on the lead lap. That is your defending race champion from 2012.
And look at Ambrose. You know, everyone knows him now as a NASCAR guy, but 2-time V8 Supercar champ, and virtually untouchable when things are going right on the road races in the Cup side. But this shows you the guy they're using as the spacer to get from Wilson to Allmendinger. Clearly, Oz is not fully recovered from his training accident. And so to have a guy like Ambrose step in and have the confidence in him, he's clearly a gamer, where Shank said, all right, and look at him. Starting to close it up on these guys in front of him.
Rocky is setting up Ryan right now as he comes onto the NASCAR 3 and 4. He will get him in the next lap or two, but right now, look, he's getting towed up behind him. This is fantastic stuff. He's worked really hard over the last 3 laps and pretty much has probably evaluated, like you do as a driver, exactly where the car in front is weak, and he's tucked up underneath as he comes up, finishing off the tri-oval here, under start finish. He's pulling the inside. It's very nice. Couldn't quite pull it off. I mean, Ryan dove in there under the brakes so hard, Tommy, that I think he made it impossible for him.
I asked Ryan, you know, this is his first time driving this Dallara chassis, and I said, what does it do well and so forth. He says it actually is really good on the brakes. That was at the Roar, and so he's making max advantage of that.
It's an interesting point. We see the Corvettes out there just like this one, the Velocity Worldwide entry from Wayne Taylor Racing, and the Corvette behind it. While they are Corvettes in body and in engine and drivetrain, it is a different chassis underneath. Both of them, a Dallara chassis for the 10 and the Coyote chassis there, and the number 9 for Action Express. So they'll have nuances that are slightly different. That's the battle in Daytona prototype. In GT, the 44 still leads overall, and John Potter must be very proud of what Magnus Racing is continuing to do, Andrew. Bit of a problem with Andrew's microphone right now, so we'll get back down to Magnus Racing and check on that momentarily.
I think it was the omelette, Brian. Actually, it made his suit not fit quite so well. Sorry, Andrew, it serves you right. But you can see the 44 is just really stunning, really running very hard.
Well, we understand the omelet problem has been fixed, Andrew.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I had a bit of mic problem there. John Potter, here you are, owner-driver team, and you're up against the might of Audi. 3 of them, millions of Deutschmarks in there.
Well, this race is always a challenge, no matter who you're going up against. And we won it last year, and we're just all we knew when we came here is we just had to do the exact same thing, and it would work out. So far, so good, but there's still a few hours left to go. Hopefully, we'll end up with another one of these.
Obviously, the way it works, John, with with the wave buys, it closes everything up again, but it does seem that you've got more speed than anyone else.
Well, there's a lot of fast cars out there, but, you know, and our car's fast, and our crew did a great job making it so, but we've also got some fast drivers. Andy Lally, my full-season co-driver, is in the car right now, and he's just doing an awesome job fighting off that very fast Ferrari.
What will be the plan for the end of the race? Will Andy take the flag, or are you going to change before then?
We will make it. Andy's been in there for a little bit, so we will make a driver change before the end. So, but fortunately, we have a couple other fast drivers here that can do a good job also.
So it won't be you. Who will take it to the flag?
Well, let's just publicly speaking, to be determined. Wait, stay tuned.
And one thing, earlier on, you probably didn't notice, but I did a little feature about your omelet maker. Brilliant.
I did see that, actually. Thank you. Yeah. No, you gotta keep everyone relaxed here.
Thanks very much, John, and back to the booth.
3 of the last 5 years, the Porsche has won the GT category. The other 2 years, it was a Mazda from Speed Source. So Porsche always very strong here. We understand that Marcus Ambrose has taken advantage of perhaps a bobble from the part of Mike Rockenfeller. Remember, Rockenfeller was in there trying to push on the back of Ryan Hunter-Reay. Ambrose right there at the end of it. Let's see. We talk about V8 supercar driver, and he's going to use a little help from traffic. He does. It looks like Rockenfeller had to get out of the throttle as GT traffic. A Porsche comes over and squeezes him to the outside. He has to lift, and that's all that Ambrose needed.
Yep. This is unbelievable, this run of the 6D car back towards the front.
I mean, I remember last night I was looking down on we've got screens in front of us for the viewers at home, and we can see all the timing and scoring, and he was down in like 47th place, which in the old days would have been really, please just go home. But now you can see the way these rules are working, and he's right there and extremely competitive.
I got a kick out of Mike Shank's tweet when he first got back on the lead lap. I didn't know he must. I'm assuming he's a dog breeder as well, because he said back on the lead lap, bitches. So he was clearly excited about that.
Yeah, no. I mean, you know, maybe that's the good luck token for him. But you can see right now he's 60 with Marcus behind the wheel is just fantastic. And you know, but you get into a rhythm right now at this stage of the race, Brian, and they're pushing hard. But this isn't the final. You know, metaphorically speaking, they haven't gathered top gear yet. They're in 5th right now in the race, and they've got one more stage to go. So no mistakes now, because you can't gain them back, and that's the big problem.
2:54 to go. Still 9 minutes longer than an average sprint race would be. But interestingly enough, Rockenfeller has dropped back a little bit. I don't know if he got something, you know, the dirt, debris on the tires is going to take a lap to get that off and get the handling of that Corvette back underneath him. But he's dropped back a bit after Ambrose was able to get around him.
It could be something as simple as literally something like that. You're so pumped, you're so tired, you're relying on the adrenaline, and a little thing like that, it's just a little disappointment, and sometimes just mentally it takes you a little bit to get gathered back up and going back at it again. Things that you don't normally have to contend with.
Saw the 56 car in there in the serial as Ambrose was working his way through. Clint Boyer holding down the 8th position in GT, and I continue to be impressed with the job that Clint Boyer has done. That entire Waltrip AF Corsa team, and they're running good here, as are several of the Ferraris. Right now it's Porsche, Ferrari, Porsche, and then the Audi brigade lines up 4th, 5th, and 6th in GT. 3 different manufacturers still gunning for the watch in GT, and for Scott Pruitt, he's looking for his 5th win. Can the Corvettes do anything about it? Does Ford have anything for BMW? We'll find out. There's more to come from Daytona. Now this weekend at Daytona, a little history on display. Formula V, 50 years. It's the 50th year anniversary for Formula V in the United States, powered by Volkswagen 1600cc engines. These little cars have been the starting point for a lot of racers who've come out of the SCCA, the Sports Car Club of America, and into pro racing. Of course, the other thing about Daytona, it's also the stage of the Budweiser Duel at Daytona. It happens February 21st when NASCAR's biggest stars return to the World Center of Racing. Don't miss 2 white-knuckle races that set the field for the 500. The Budweiser Duel at Daytona, February 21st, 2 Eastern, live on Speed. A little bit different than a Formula V car, the Duel.
I'll tell you what, though, the duels don't have anything on the Rolex in intensity anymore. I mean, this is something else. And yeah, the V thing is pretty cool. It's reading the tea leaves, Volkswagen to come out and do this big celebration, and they've not done anything around racing for a long time. I would kind of stay tuned with the VW folks, and they flew Ari Leyendyk in. Michael Andretti was here because of his Super V history. So I wouldn't be surprised if Volkswagen also part of that, you know, the top of that Audi Porsche group.
Pruitt is really doing what Pruitt does very well with the Ganassi 01. He pulls out about 6, well, it's now 9 seconds on that last lap, and he is just controlling his pace there with traffic.
Marcus Ambrose all over the back of Ryan Hunter-Reay, using traffic to his advantage. And way back in the shot is Rockefeller. He's dropped back after that little nudge off track by the GT car. No longer a factor in this battle. That is the onboard from the number 3, I believe, Pedro Lamy behind the wheel of the 8-star Motorsports Corvette. Not a factor in the battle, but you get to watch it from on board with those cars right in front. And Lamy running some good times, beginning to close down. Look at Ambrose, look to the inside of Hunter-Reay. It's Ford power in the number 60 Chevy Corvette, the number 10. So Ford versus the bow tie, the blue oval versus the bow tie. Down the back straightaway here, out of NASCAR 2, and they'll head to the bus stop.
I think you're right there, Tommy. I think the 10 car is good under brakes, even though, you know, Marcus Ambrose is able to get right up behind in the toe here. He just can't pull it off under the braking at the moment.
Yeah, and it looks like Hunter-Reay's struggling a little bit, putting the power down up onto the banking.
I would like to point out for everyone, they're getting a lot of Twitter comments. No, I did not go out last night to some of Daytona's finest establishments. No, I wasn't drinking on the infield. Otherwise, I'd have shown you on tape. I have a horrible head cold, but I've had people going, wow, JB, you must have had a big night. No, I didn't.
Well, this
in his
battle,
defense, he sounded way worse.
Yeah, he was worse yesterday
morning.
He was way worse yesterday morning. Well, we talk about the different manufacturers battling here in Daytona Prototype. They're also battling in GT, remember, and the Rum Bum team, well, they're Audi R8. They've been running well, Andrew.
Yeah, and I'm with a member of the famous German racing dynasty and a man who led a Formula 1 race. He's got to put his crash helmet on in just a minute. Marcus said Audi has slipped out of the top 3 at the moment. He had a bit of difficult deals with some speeding and stuff like that.
Yeah, we had speeding in the pit lane. I would take the safety car. Therefore, we got 3.5-minute penalty. So it's going to be not easy, but it's really tight now. I probably are going to stay until the end of the race now in the car. It's going to be a long stint. I'm going to push like hell until the end, and I give everything.
Great stuff, then. Go and get crash helmet on. And just to say that, Marcus, we want to know from you out there, folks, which Grand Prix did he lead?
I know. But I won't tell, because I don't want to ruin Andrew's little quiz, but I can tell you that they are working diligently to get that 13 back up at the front. Matt Plum behind the wheel of it right now. And he comes from a pretty serious racing family.
He sure does. And, I mean, we joke about all the German being spoken around the Audi thing with all the technicians and engineers and so forth, but they have been disproportionately affected by all the penalties. The 13 cars had problems, 52 car, 24 car have all had problems. Some were for contact, but a lot were procedural. And I'm wondering with these new procedures, if literally there was something lost in translation. They clearly didn't understand all the rules taking place on the waiver routes.
And these programs have all come together relatively fast. I mean, these are being run by independent teams with Audi factory support. So, you know, there's a lot of room for move there. We're watching something here happen in the bus stop.
Oh, that's the 66 from the Racers group. And after that off in the bus stop has come to pit lane. One of your teammates.
My teammate, yes.
Yeah, well, okay.
Doing a lot of work to the back of that, and the 44 is now in the pits. Andy Lally behind the wheel of the Magnus Racing Porsche. And I see no driver standing on the wall. Tires at the ready.
Strikes me as strange they're not doing a driver change right now, but maybe they're just going to try and get to the next break so then the final driver can stay until the end of the race, which would make sense instead of.
At this point in the middle of the night to do a 2:44 stint would be doable. Now in the heat of the day, guys are tired with the intensity at the end. You want to get them as close as you can get to the end of the race, and we're going to watch when all the teams, GT and Prototype, put their final bullets in the gun. I want to give a shout out to John Potter. They have a really good time, as we've seen by the poster and so forth, but he's the one that's behind this. Some of these teams have turned into all-pro teams, but he's a gentleman driver, and he drives, and he should drive. You know, he gets in that car and ran a number of stints. Sometimes the guys that are paying for everything get shuffled out the side in the interest of trying to win the races. And so I like to see that John Potter has a shot at a back-to-back win here in the Rolex 24. And another thing for Andy Lally, for whatever reason, because Porsches are unique, there's always debate over who is the fastest Porsche driver. No one asks who's the fastest Audi driver or whatever, but the fastest Porsche driver. And I know Andy Lally takes a lot of pride in being able to take the best that Jerome Leakemolen can throw at him and so forth. And so he's made a pretty strong case for himself in this race.
Just inside normal sprint race distance. 2 hours, 43 minutes left to go. Al Carter has climbed out of his mount, taking a break. Plenty of drivers yet to enter their cars and take the run to the checkered flag when we come back to Daytona.
I don't care what you say. I don't mind pain. I don't care what you say. I don't mind pain. I don't mind pain. While I'm rolling, let it find my way. 'Cause I'm feeling that move out of my way. You can't catch me. So all you haters, better move out my way.
Everybody wanna try so hard they can get the hat.
Good stuff from here at the 51st Rolex 24. Scott Pruitt, top of the leaderboard. We've seen him there. Marcus Ambrose, I'm impressed. He is on a run towards the front. McNish, I don't think you can count him out. And then we start to get into big names that are dropping back. Dario Franchitti out in the 02. Jerome Bleakmolen there in the 23. That Porsche from Alex Job Racing running well in GT, and it's amazing because it has some serious battle scars on it right now.
Something that might be coming into play, and we heard some people touch on it as their cars handling has changed as it's gotten warmer. After qualifying, Bleakmolen was a little confused by their pace deficit to the 44 car, for example, and the Tandy car. So it could well be, and I remember at the test, everybody was pointing at that 44 car, having something figured out. I talked to Andy Lally about it, and he said the new front tire was giving some guys some trouble. You see Tandy, who had in trouble early and is out. But the Magnus car seems to have come to grips with the tire and maybe the hot conditions. The qualifying was at about the same time that this race is going to finish.
And the 69 was just on pit road. Routine stop, Jamie?
It certainly was. It did take a little longer than normal on that driver change. Mark Wilkins got out. Anthony Lazzaro got in, but they were still trying to get Anthony strapped in once the fuel and the tires were complete. But other than that, the car looks good.
You know, this event always takes its toll. We saw Nick Tandy there way back on the leaderboard, actually out early. He had qualified on pole. The 30 Momo NGT Porsche had run so well. We saw the problem they had with that left front suspension failure in the tri-oval. Battle scars on the 24 too. That's a piece that's been missing the entire time, and yet that Audi R8 continuing to run strong, being shown 7th right now as we cycle through pit stops. So it's getting to be that time. I mean, you think about it, guys, we've run over 21 hours, and it's one of those deals that this race, this event, this pace beginning to take its toll on the cars and the men that work the steering wheel and the pedals. The 63 was just on pit road and has done the driver change. Andrew?
Yeah, and I'm with Alessandro Balsan, who's the European Ferrari champion, but this is completely different, Alessandro. You're enjoying it, though?
Yeah, it's crazy because it's a 24 hours, but we are pushing like hell from the beginning to the end. I'm very happy with the guys of Scuderia Corsa at number 63. More and going on the stint, more and getting better on the car. So very happy about the feeling I have on the 458 here. Keep pushing till the end. I'm very happy about all the guys that we make, so I'm very thanks Ferrari and Scuderia Corsa.
Thanks very much, and Scuderia Corsa means, of course, Team Racing. That's a great name. Jamie.
The overall leader, the 01 from Ganassi Racing on pit road. The team just doing fuel and tires. Scott Pruitt is going to stay in. They're taking a little bit of extra time to make sure they get all of the grass, everything blown out of that car. The number 10, also an 01 stop is complete. It looks like he will resume the lead from pit lane.
90 on pit road as well, just in front of the 10, the multicolored blue Corvette Daytona prototype. Looks like routine service there. We also understood there was a radio report
all the way to the fast lane.
Close to the air hose, and you heard him say that time, all the way to the fast lane, try to get out there as soon as possible. We saw that drag race earlier today, but what I was saying was the 60, we heard a radio report, the temperature, water temperature may be becoming an issue.
And the grill, at least from here.
Fuel, tires, with the car.
So that was Mike Shank, you heard on the radio, telling Marcus Ambrose that he will be coming to pit lane and they will make a stop. 60 being shown in the lead, and I know Mike Shank would like to take a picture of that right now because they have worked so hard to get that car there. Obviously, that's where they'd like to see it at the end, and we still have a long ways to go. I can't stress enough that anything can happen. Anything can happen. That will break the record for lead changes here at the Rolex 24. Now 65 lead changes. And that will continue to change as we roll through here and see more pit stops as Ambrose comes to the pits.
It's a great opportunity for them, for Shank to check what that overheating issue is. As you said, Tommy, doesn't look like much debris on the front, but maybe it's in that top scoop, which we can't see. Maybe there's something in there from earlier. They did have a couple of, off-road excursions over time. So let's just see what they're doing. His hand is down there inside no, it's not. It's on the left front wheel. but he's going to be checking. The telemetry is obviously showing a temperature rise. But let's face it, the cars have been there. If I told you at home you were going to run your road car for 21 and a half hours, how do you feel about that? These guys are going flat out in race conditions. So maybe a little temperature creep is just part of the course.
But of course, if you have a temperature issue, this is the last thing you want to do is stop in the pits because everything gets heat soaked at that point in time. Good stop for the 60.
Ambrose stays in just like Pruitt did.
Oh, and the 9 barely missing the tire from the 99. So Gaines go in as well, making a stop. Don't know if there was a driver change at the 9. Mike Rockenfeller still being shown behind the wheel of the Corvette from Action Express. Rockenfeller trying to claim his second Rolex 24 win.
We're really setting up for that last hour finale, like you've been positioning it. Really, it's there, saving the best for last, fresh, hydrated. And just so you know, back in the old days, like when George drove here on your own, there was no masseurs or hydration or experts or nutritionists. These teams are well looked after. The drivers are well looked after, and they will be in peak shape for the final sprint to the finish.
Now, Ganassi, even though Kimball only did one stint, that have 4 drivers in that car, so a little less load. I mean, Pruitt's doing hard work now. You got to think that Ganassi feels good about his chances as we see the number 2 heading for pit road. He's got a rested Juan Pablo Montoya with a shot to win the Rolex, and that's the situation they wanted to set up. But Shank's got to like things with Allmendinger as well.
The eyes of one of the most intense drivers in the field, Alan McNish, wants desperately to win this race. He's won it in class, but overall victory has slipped away from him. So close last year, and I think the word that you used was epic, and it was an epic battle, to say the least. The fight to the bitter end between Starworks and Michael Shank Racing, two of the teams that are thought of to be a little bit smaller teams, but I'll tell you what, they have grown over the years, not only in size, but in their ability.
They're certainly prepping the car. They just changed the water bottle for Allen, and they also took a tear off on the front windscreen, because there's a lot of build-up. The track is so dirty out there from all the offs that we've seen, and it's very bright sunshine today, so there will be sort of glare points on the track for the driver. Why not clean it up?
Something as simple as not getting the drink bottle changed at this point, the wheels can come off it, because the guys are so tapped out, fluids-wise. It's warm, so all the little details, the windshield having a tear-off left. So we've got Jamie Howe down with Mike Shank to tell us what they've got lining up for the end of this one.
Well, we heard that radio commentary that you guys are they're worried about a water temp issue. What's going on with the car?
It's just full of sand. We're in Daytona Beach, so the thing's full of sand. But I think our position right now is a tribute to what Ford Racing and their engineering staff have done. We have Raj Nazir and Jamie Allison here with us from them, supporting us for the first time ever, high-ranking Ford guys. My crew have done a great job. I think we're up to P2, I think, right now, after being 8 laps down. I couldn't be happier, but we do have little niggling things like this, like you talked about, that we need to get through here. But I think we're okay.
You guys won here last year. How are you looking at your prospects for a repeat?
On a heads-up race with the 01, it's just not meant to be. Last year was our year, and I think everyone can see that. This year, they have a bit of an advantage on us. I hope that Grand Am and NASCAR will take care of that by the time we get to Austin like they did with us last year, and I'm cool with it. We're here to race. We're going to get as high as we can on the podium if that's possible.
All right, you guys are still in it. Thank you, Michael.
Well, and I said earlier, anything can happen. Marcus Ambrose comes in for his stop, heads back out on track, and once again, look at this. It can be somebody else that does it to you. And right in front of him, the 62 has the issue, headed down to the hairpin. I mean, there's a close call. And he says we just don't have the car this year. That Ford power plant, 300 RPM less allowed this year than they ran here last year. And that's going to take some power away, some top end away for sure.
But, you know, we saw the 02 fall out with a driveline problem. So basically what he's saying is in a heads-up duel, we probably don't have enough. But that's not the only way to win this race. So they're going to keep the pressure on, try to manage all the issues they're dealing with, and then see how it shakes out.
Well, you know, we saw at the open of the show Clint Boyer kind of give his ideas on sports car racing. We'll find out what he's like when he has to talk to an Englishman, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. You probably noticed I'm not Matt Yoakum, and I hope you can understand what I say. You're really enjoying this, aren't you?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. You know, I just want to thank Rob Kaufman and everybody. Being able to start the year off like this with both of my bosses, Michael Waltrip and Rob Kaufman, pretty cool, man. Pretty cool to be here in a Ferrari and Rolex. You know, these guys work their butts off. It's amazing what they go through for this race. The preparation is key, as always, in any kind of race. Certainly, they put their homework in and did a good job for us.
We got this thing going on, I think it's on Twitter. How do you rank in the all-time Ferrari drivers? I mean, we got Alberto Ascari up there somewhere. You know, Fangio and a few people.
Yeah, well, whatever he just said, I'm just going to say that I had fun today. I appreciate everybody.
Seriously, is this going to sharpen you up for the Sprint Cup road races?
Yeah. You know, I don't know. I mean, the cars are drastically different, but anytime you can do road racing against this caliber of drivers, of course, you're going to learn some things from them. You know, just lines, you know, where you're at on the racetrack, where you're finding your apexes. Just all the things you do as a road racer, you know, just kind of honing and sharpening your skills out here.
And Rob's going to be telling you all about Le Mans. He's going to want you to come to the 24-hour race there.
Yeah, but I think that's in the middle of my day job. I better stick to doing that.
Yeah, but it's all coming up soon. Thanks very much.
Well, it's amazing to somewhat that he actually drives from Michael Waltrip. They had a problem back in 2008, and Boyer said Waltrip was the worst driver in NASCAR, period, and now Michael Waltrip is his boss. Clint Boyer having a good time. We'll be back to more from Daytona Beach and the Rolex 24.
Long-distance racing has changed a lot in the last 50 years, and the biggest difference is that the cars are so much tougher, so much less prone to breaking down. This has brought about a revolution in the way they are driven. Today, you brake hard, shift fast, push the engine. Years ago, cars took on personalities as the race wore on. Now they are tools, inanimate devices that carry their drivers around and around and around again. They are also like tiny homes. Their controls as familiar as the layout of your kitchen. The atmosphere as humid as your shower. The instruments glowing as warmly as the embers in your heart.
Absolutely great stuff to look at the inside of those machines as they go around this racetrack. So much history here at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. They don't call it the World Center of Racing for nothing. Stock cars, road racing, go-karts, motorcycles, it all happens here at Daytona. 2 hours, 24 minutes left to go in the 51st Rolex 24 at Daytona. Alan McNish on board, the number 2. He'll hand that car over to Ryan Dial the other Scotsman on that team. And Dial will see what he can do to chase down Scott Pruitt, who puts another lap in the books and inches closer to his record-tying 5th win if he can hold on. But there you go, another car entering the racetrack. We said anything can happen at any time. It doesn't have to be your fault. Lady Luck sometimes smiles your directions, and sometimes she does not. In the 60 car, they have come back from 7 laps down twice. Marcus Ambrose will be handing over to A.J. Allmendinger. Will he have enough to take the 60 to another win, Andrew?
Well, let's see. I understand Juan Pablo Montoya was going to talk to us, but he's so wound up, AJ, that he's not giving Jamie an interview. But you've always talked well, and you're really looking forward to this final battle now.
Yeah, this what are we at here? We're at just over 21 and a half hours. What a 21 and a half hours so far. It's Michael Shank Racing, it's Ford Riley, Mike Shank himself. And within the first 15 minutes, we had a tie rod break. We went 7 laps down, got some of it back, lost it all again. We had to go to the garage and fix the fuel pump. And it's the heart and soul of this team. These guys in here, I'm just fortunate enough to be a part of it. We got a never give up attitude. They've been like this for 8 years that I've been with them. And we fought as hard as we could to get back from the lead lap. Marcus Ambrose, Oswaldo Negri with a bum ankle, John Pugh, Justin Wilson. I'm just lucky to be a part of this, and these guys, it's a lot of fun right now. We got a shot at this thing.
If you do this and make it 2 in a row, might you have a new tattoo?
Well, these two right here already said they're going to get a matching tattoo on my that says never give up, like the one I have on my shoulder. So we already got that. And last year, Mike Shank shaved my initials into his head. I might just reverse that and go MSR in my head.
Do you know what? It's good you never became a Formula One driver, because we never would have allowed that sort of thing.
Yeah, we have fun over here in the States.
Have a great final battle.
Thank you.
You notice I'm on my knees to you.
Well, I got 2 hours to go wheel this thing and try to get into victory lane, so I felt like the least you could do was sit down with me.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
A.J. Allmendinger has maintained his infectious personality through some of the personal struggles that he's been through, and it's good to see, and I think he's a different person now, and it's great to see him back. And we look a little further back in the field, you see the 17 Porsche from Burton Racing go past the 78. The Racer's Edge Mazda, the only Mazda RX-8 in the field, and it's Robert Renauer in the 17. Renauer ran here in 2007 in a Daytona prototype, but this team with Jack Baldwin, Claudio Burton, Mario Farnbacher, Martin Raginger, they put on a good show. They're running the 3.8-liter power plant in the back of their 911, and some of the other teams using the later model 4-liter. But this team out there soldiering along, and it has certainly been through the wars.
The car is actually quite a bit old, and it's an amalgamation of parts. They call this car Frankensteina. And I think this will be the last time it's eligible, because it really doesn't fit the code exactly, but it's showing the wear. And here's another former winner, the 03 Extreme Speed car, Scott Sharp, overall winner, running 10th in GT. He had that overall win in '96, driving with Wayne Taylor.
And this team does such a great job. They won their first race in the American Le Mans Series last year in a Ferrari, fielding 2 cars in the American Le Mans Series. Guy Cosmo, Ed Brown drive 1. Scott Sharp, Johannes Van Overbeck drive the other. And it's good to see him dabbling over here in the Rolex Sports Car Series. Jamie?
I was talking to the team engineer, Chachi, earlier in the week, and he said they just had this number 03 machine on the shaker rig up in Mooresville on Monday of this week, and it wasn't to help them with this race just because it's too tight to apply anything that they learned, but it's to help them with the Endurance Championship that they are going to run over here at Grand Am. You mentioned their American Le Mans Series program. What they've been able to do within their team is take some of the developments that they've done on the 458 that they race in GT2 and apply them to this GT3 machine. So they say from where they were with this car last year to now is substantial. The team's certainly showing some growth.
Well, and they've certainly showed plenty of speed. We talked about the victories last year, and the 59 now back out, the famous Brumos colors. Good to see after the 40th anniversary of Brumos' first overall win here. I know Andrew Davis had a problem dodging another car on the racetrack and did substantial damage to the 59. Good to see that they've gotten that fixed and back out.
I mean, that paint job looks good, doesn't it?
It does look good, doesn't it? And you know, you've got to remember that we tend to focus, as does the fans, on the leading cars, but everybody out there, crew, team, drivers, support crew, are working very hard throughout the race. And Brian Sellers in the car there right now is pushing very hard as he can in that car for the condition of that car right now. So, you know, it's and you're sitting where you are right now. They're 11th in class.
And Andrew Davis qualified that car on pole here last year, and I asked him about the Rolex GT championship that he won with Lee Keen versus the pole that he won, and he said, you know, in some respects, the pole last year was even better on his resume because he went out against Porsche factory drivers and qualified a Porsche on the pole at the Rolex 24, and it just shows you how special this event is.
I talked about that battle for whatever reason amongst the Porsche guys. It's a big deal, and qualifying, which means very little at this race, was very important to his career and his standing.
Brian Sellers, very experienced in Porsches. He drives the Falcon Tire Porsche with Wolf Hensler, who is a factory Porsche driver in the American Le Mans Series. And looking back a little bit further, another Porsche, the 45. This is another Porsche from Magnus Racing, and they had some problems early on. But it's just like everybody else. You know, you guys talked about it. There comes a point where you know you're not going to win the race. But what do? Park it in the garage? No, you get back out and you run. And from Mark Bowden, Al Carter, Charles Espenlaub, Hugh Plum, Charles Putman, there's no quit. You see the be positive on the front of that. They want to be positive for the foundation that they represent, and they want to run this race and finish it.
There's only two teams getting Rolexes, but, you know, everybody here that's made it this far, there's sort of a shared sense of accomplishment. The amount of energy expended by the teams, the officials, the caterers, etc. And here's another one.
And as you see, the 72 car, JF Dumlin behind the wheel. This is the Children's Tumor Foundation car. I was privileged to race with them here last year, and we went out. But some great fun things. They've got about 30 of the kids here, all wearing their little blue NF Hero shirts. I said to Patrick Long last night, on Friday night, this gives you about a second a lap in the middle of the night when you know these kids are here. There's a really fun thing coming up in the next month on February, just the weekend before Valentine's Day. It's called the Undy Fun Run. 18 cities, thousands of people running in their underwear. Will raise about $2 million for the foundation. So, Brian, not you. Actually, no one in this booth should do this run. But I'm sure there's some fit young drivers that should go out there and do it. Anyway, lovely to see this car. And they had problems at the beginning, Brian. Dropped them all the way back down, I think, 9 laps. And now they're sitting there and, you know, they're a long way behind. But it's unfortunately, they weren't able to take advantage of the yellows.
So you were training the other night.
That's what I was doing. Yes, exactly. You saw that.
Moving along, you talked about the problems of the 72 and the 73. It was a wheel nut problem, actually, on both cars, and they got that sorted out. And there is the sister car, Park Place Motorsports, John Horton, engineer, Patrick Lindsay involved with that team, Jason Hart driving right now, and this team is one of the up-and-comers in GT. Patrick Lindsay had some great drives with Eric Foss last year when this team was known as Horton Autosport, and they are taking their Park Place affiliation with Park Place Motorsports, Park Place dealerships in Dallas, and really doing great things with it. 2 hours, 15 minutes to go, and Scott Pruitt still out in front. In Daytona Prototypes, Anthony Lazzaro in the familiar 69 AIM FX DD Ferrari leads in GT, and that GT battle shaping up to be a good one. The Rolex 24 at Daytona is presented by Rolex, official timekeeper of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Plenty campers, plenty fans here. Sports car racing, you wander around the entire facility here at Daytona, or you sit on top of your motorhome and try to take in the sights, and it's perfect weather to do it. The 51st running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Scott Pruitt leads, and I said when we went to break that Anthony Lazzaro was leading in GT. I misspoke. Andy Lally still out in front in his Magnus Racing Porsche, the number 44. You ride on board the number 3 Corvette Daytona Prototype.
And this will give you some insight into the pounding we keep referencing about using the curbs and so forth. That very first curb into the bus stop next time we go around, listen to the car. But they'll be on the curb everywhere. They're on the inside curb, the outside curb. Radius equals speed, so you're trying to use every bit of paved track that you can. And you might say we're going to try to stay off the curbs to save the wear and tear of the car, but if someone starts doing it and you lose speed, then everybody's doing it. So it's gotten to that point, and we'll just lay out a little bit. Listen, this is where we're talking about going into the bus stop.
Not only do you have the bumps, you've got people throwing rocks in your face when you're right behind them as well.
Your face, you can't see. You heard the engine rev when the wheels got light. Every time it goes up, unweights the drive line, twists it again when it lands, putting unbelievable loads through all the parts, both drive line and suspension.
Gives you a good idea how long it takes in a GT car to get back around to turn one.
Mickelhawk worrying him on the outside.
You ride on board the number 13 Audi. It's the number 64 Ferrari right in front. And part of the time on those downshifts, you can hear the Ferrari actually on the onboard camera.
I'm going to give a shout out to the Rum Bum folks as we switch to the WeatherTech car. Rum Bum is becoming mostly known in the Continental Sports Car Challenge Series, but really distinctive, beautiful cars. And I think years from now, looking back, like we look at Brumos now and Martini from the old days, I think we'll look at Rum Bum as some of the most iconic looking cars.
That's on board the 90 Spirit of Daytona Corvette. Antonio Garcia behind the wheel. It could be just a camera location. You don't hear it quite as much on the Daytona prototypes as you heard it on the GT cars.
I think there was just a very messy lap as well. When the car in front is throwing up gravel and stones, it just amplifies the noise. But actually, Garcia, he actually only ran the exit left-hand curve, which you do every lap. If you go 6 more inches to the left, then you run the hole, and then you start beating the car up.
That was on board with Marcus Winkelhock in the 13 through the bus stop.
Spectacular angle there. Thanks to our producers for showing us that, because I think that really gave you at home an idea of you could see the car shake, you could see, and you could hear the noise. You see it's not often we get this angle. You see the paddle shifters there. The Audi R8 comes with those, and some of the other cars you have sequential. The Porsche's in the middle of the dashboard. So you'll see it right now, right here as he taps it down. The downshift is on this side, and the upshift is on this side. There's my drawing. It actually looks like a little man with long arms, but that's fine. I was an art major, believe it or not.
You'll notice in some of the Porsches that we rode on board with, it is a sequential shift, but there is a gear lever. The Audi and the Ferrari have the paddle shift systems on them.
If I'm not mistaken, the Ferrari paddles are actually fixed like they are in the road car, which is a little different from once you turn with the wheel.
On board the 90, that's the Spirit of Daytona Corvette. Antonio Garcia, and you saw him reach over the sequential shifter, the shift linkage. He reaches over and just pushes forward to downshift as he went into the bus stop. Long ago, we ran H-pattern gearboxes, and you'd be hard-pressed to find one of those in any of the top classes of racing anymore.
Ferrari do not actually make an H-pattern box anymore. So long live the gate. And down to Jamie, she's there with the 2 car.
Off the front brake line.
They've got the number 2 from Star Wars who's come into the pit. When Alan McNish got out of the car, he was complaining about a sticky throttle. When they put Ryan Ziel in the car, they were running through his diagnostics. They were having him pump the brake pedal and checking where the fluid was going. They couldn't figure it out. Then Ryan noticed that underneath the brake pedal, there was actually no floor left. They have completely sheared away the front brake line. They are going to have to go back to the garage to fix this. As soon as the car gets out of the way, the crew gets sorted, we're going to grab Peter Barrett and see what's going on.
Wow, what a shame. What were you saying seconds ago about the unexpected? You've got to plan for it, and it's just happened. There he is. Very, very sad to have this. Very sad. Ryan was completely ready to to push for that last stint, and yeah, crazy stuff.
Well, and earlier in the broadcast, when Bob Barsha was on, he was talking about Bourdais looking down a lot, maybe looking down at that brake pedal, seeing if he could find a problem with it, not liking the way it was feeling. So, as we've said, anything can happen. It's happened to the 2. Will it happen to the 0-1? We'll find out when we come back.
We're back at the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona, where we have just over 2 hours of racing left, but it has been an hour of struggle for Star Wars Motorsports. Peter Barrett, you guys are back in the garage. What's wrong, and when will you be back?
We just had 2 things go wrong. We had a throttle linkage that's been hung up. We've had a problem with that kind of all week, and they had an update for the motor, but I don't know if it was related to that or with all the offset these guys have had. There's so much debris inside. Maybe it's something in the pedal linkage that could just be dirt in there. And then that was compounded with we had a brake line failure where one of the lines just ruptured. So we think we have the linkage fixed, and now we just have to replace that brake line. Maybe about 15 minutes, and we're back out there, but it's just been an atrocious event.
You guys are still in it, though. Good luck getting it done.
Boy, when you get a sticking throttle and you got bad brakes on the car, it's a combination of things you don't want to have.
No, and I mean, they've been up against it from the start, really. Things haven't gone their way, and so I don't think this will hurt as much as last year.
Now, you'll notice that the number 10, Max Angelelli, in front of the 60. So Angelelli's picked up a spot on Marcus Ambrose, and when you've been around as long as Angelelli has, you learn to play a few tricks, and this time I don't know if it was a trick that he actually had planned or he just used a little bit of lady luck. But look at the GT battle in front of him. Ambrose gets pinned up behind, wants to go low.
He just absolutely pinned is the word. He thought the 64 was going to not get into the altercation there, sort of with the BMW, and absolutely trapped down there. God, that must have been so frustrating.
Great job.
But you know, no harm, no foul in the end. He's right back behind him, and you know, track position, track time.
And now the shoe's on the other foot. Like we've said, it's harder for the guy to get to the traffic first. And look at Ambrose looking up the outside. But Wayne Taylor Racing, the Velocity Worldwide car, they've played their ace. So they want Angelelli at the end. They got him to within about 2 hours and 10 minutes to the end. He's going to take it at the end. Allmendinger is going to be a little bit fresher than Max is, because we're going to have to wait and see how far Ambrose goes here and when the leaders start playing their final, firing their final bullet.
Well, remember the other 2 bullets in the gun on the number 10 for Wayne Taylor would either be Ryan Hunter-Reay, who just got out of the car, so you're not going to put him back in, or Jordan Taylor, who is brand new in that car for this year. And look at Ambrose coming back on Angelelli. And perhaps they just feel like they don't want Jordan Taylor to be in that car at the end, but he was spectacular in the early going, and Ambrose now taking the fight back to Max Angelelli. It's Ford versus Chevrolet.
Battle of the brakes coming up here, and he's got it on the inside. Very sweet. That's just good driving. They know they can do that lap after lap.
Exactly where we saw the weakness in the 10 car before, up onto the bank. When Hunter-Reay was in the car, that's where he seemed to be struggling. Good under the brakes, but Ambrose, got past, not up through speed. Now he's come right back at it. So
Angelelli now closing on the back of Ambrose. We said he's good under the brakes, good at corner entry. It's power off where the 10 car seems to have the biggest problem. Talk about equality. Straight line speed between these 2 entrants, at least at this point in the race, is very good. Side by side into one. Ambrose holds the position. Angelelli continuing to attack.
The long way round there in an equal car is not a fair fight, you know. So he discretion the better part of valor there. They're just catching up on the back of one of the GT cars, so that will obviously create a gap, especially as you're coming up to the flat left-hand kink here. This is the place where the car, you see, he just gets pinned behind him. So you lose suddenly a second and a half.
If you wonder at home why the GT cars don't get out of the way, they can't just disappear. They're driving the best race that they can. When we come back to Daytona, Bob Barsha, Calvin Fish, Dorsey Schrader will join you in the booth. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back. Make sure you stay with us. Sure to be watching tonight on Speed Center, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Mario Andretti, the legend himself, will be in studio with Adam Alexander to announce the winner of this year's Speed Performer of the Year award and the Mario Andretti Trophy. There you see the finalists. Who will be our honoree this year? Find out tonight, live here on Speed at 7 p.m. Eastern with Adam and special guest Mario. Welcome back. Less than 2 hours to go in the 24 here at Daytona. With Calvin Fish and Dorsey Schrader, I'm Bob Barsha. Chris Neville and Matt Yoakum are downstairs. And we understand that there could be a problem on the 10 car. We're at the point in the race. Well, basically, 24 hours ago, all the strategists might look at the clock once every 30 minutes or so, but now they'll be watching it every single minute. They'll be watching the timing and scoring screens for the gaps between the race cars on track. And there is still an awful lot of work to be done on these cars.
And maybe a miss with this 10 machine. Simon Hodgson just said 2 more laps, which will make it a 27-lap stint for Angelelli. They certainly don't want to do an unscheduled stop. If there is an issue, try and hit that fuel window if you can. But no indication yet. The car seems to be on song. Was in a great battle there with Marcus. Have to wait and see.
It's been a record 68 lead changes in this 2013 edition of the Rolex 24. 14 full course cautions. That is not a record.
One thing I still question when Ganassi did that brake change about 4 hours to go, the fact that the SunTrust team did not take the opportunity to refresh their brakes, Dorsey. And it would have been 7 hours to get to the checkered flag here today and keep those brakes fresh. And we understand they're pretty aggressive on their pad setup. Here we see another one of the cards about to be played. As TK said, your final gun, AJ Allmendinger. He is focused, he is ready. Even though that 01 car may have some speed, AJ's going to give it everything if he can get in a shootout with, we expect to be JP and Juan Pablo Montoya.
After this race last year, Michael Shank said, winning the Rolex 24 at Daytona changed my life and my race team in every possible way. And I'm sure AJ Allmendinger would back up that statement. His life changed as well. Let's get more from Chris Neville on the 10 car.
Well, Bob, just checked in with Wayne Taylor, and he said the problem with the car is with the electronics in the gearbox, and when they're hitting bumps, they're having a hard time shifting that car. Now, he said there is the possibility that during a pit stop that they can cut a wire, and that would allow that to shift properly when going over the bumps. But he said it's not that big of a deal, and it's not slowing them down that much. So he's thinking at this point in time that they won't do that they will not cut that wire. They will just drive the car the way it is until the finish.
What you don't want to happen right now is for the transmission to start missing shifts because the gears are weak. They've got a lot of wear on them. They've got a lot of miles on them right now. And if they start kicking it back and forth between gears, you can knock the teeth off of one of those. And once that happens, all that debris gets in the gearbox, and it's a death spiral. So if it's not shifting properly, I think I would do anything possible with this much time left to get it to shift right.
Maybe coinciding if they're high up in the RPM range when they hit that bump.
With the gear sensor, is it consistent? Is it okay? Can you deal with it? Looks like. Okay then, we're going to leave it for now.
I think Max is one of those drivers. If it happens,
heads up for reserve.
He heads up if he needs to hit the reserve switch on the fuel pumps, but Max is one of those guys, if he has a single issue, he's probably saying, now I've got a major problem here. Simon's just trying to talk him through it. Is it a consistent problem? No, it's okay. Just focus and get on with the job.
90's got the deck off, guys, looking at the engine, something at least at the back of the car.
Ollie Gavin just tweeted that he heard there may be an exhaust issue again with that car. They're looking down in that left rear quarter. They had that sparking going on last night. Chris, what do you see down there?
Yeah, Calvin, I've been listening to this car going around the racetrack, and I initially thought that maybe it had a header issue or maybe it was even down a couple cylinders because it just sounded so bad as it was coming through the tri-oval. But now as they've taken off the engine cover, we can really see that the exhaust has really come apart in this engine at Bay Area. You know, the pipes that typically come out to the back end of the car, they're broken off. They're pretty much just the headers, and that's all that's left there. So they're just trying to clean things out and get the car back into the fight. But obviously they're not fighting fighting for a win at this point in time.
Well, again, Chris, we talk about issues earlier in the event. We talk about Jamie McMurray. Was it the hit that caused the problem? Ultimately had drive lane issues. We had the exhaust drag in the ground last night. That's now gone to the headers doors. We see the leader hit pit lane.
Well, watch that. That exhaust system being broke with steel power, no question about it. And you see Scotty limping over there.
To Chris Neville.
Yeah, boy, you saw Scott Pruitt get out of the 01 car there with a serious limp, and I talked to Tim Keene about that right before Scott got in the car for this stint. He said it's his ankle injury from about 25 years ago that's really been acting up, so they were going to keep him in the car for, he told me at that point in time, 1 stint. Scott just did 2. So that ankle's going to really be bothering him. We'll talk to him in just a second. But JPM now behind the wheel. He's going to finish this out. And that was just Sunoco fuel and Continental tires on the car there. I'm going to jump over the wall here because last time we didn't get a hold of Scott Pruitt. He had walked away, got back to the coach before we could get him. But I'm going to get him right now. And Scott, saw you get out of the car there. Big limp. You got a limp back here. You doing okay, man?
It's my ankle. It just tore up. You know, it's just... It's frustrating because it's just a lot of years, you know. It's an old IndyCar injury tied to my family at home, but the car's running good. Telmex BMW is just fantastic. The nasty guys are doing a good job. That's what I was telling Timmy. I wasn't sure if we're going to be fighting hard for the end. Just not sure my ankle could hang out, being able to push as hard as maybe we had to push. So that's why the kind of the change up there.
Yeah, well, you look pretty wiped out. 52 years old, that ankle injury, but you guys are just keeping that car up front. And when you got behind the wheel, I think you were in 4th or 5th on that caution. And I think it was within 8 minutes you were back in the lead.
Like I said, the car's working good. We love the balance. You know, we worked real hard on getting it right. We really trimmed the car out, but also at the same time really worked on it mechanically. So, fingers crossed.
Well, this team always shows up ready to win this race. They were the favorites going in, and obviously everything seems to be falling their way today.
We'll take another look at Scott getting out of the car. I can testify to the seriousness of that injury. I was working for another network back then. Scott suffered the injury testing an Indy car. I believe it was at Moroso Motorsports Park here in Florida. And it was a devastating injury to his right leg. He and I were scheduled to call time trials for the Indianapolis 500 that year. Scott arrived at the booth in a wheelchair with pins and rods and bandages everywhere. Down to Matt Gilman.
Marcos Ambrose getting out. Bob, a pat on the back by A.J. Allmendinger climbing in. They were averaging about 25 seconds per driver change on Friday when they were rehearsing it. 4 tires going on, fuel, going to top them off with Sunoco, and AJ will run 2 stints to the finish. Michael Schenck told me as they're packing that fuel cell full of fuel, the only adjustment they're looking at making, which they've been doing consistently, adjusting John's forces down pit road as they were basically trying to get him more grip in the back end of the car, Chris.
Well, the 9 car's out with all the problems with the 2, the 10, the 60, the 90. It looks like this 9 car might be the only one that's really going up against the 01, and that was Joao Barbosa getting behind the wheel. Mike Rockenfeller getting out of the car right now. He still has his helmet on as he's getting yeah, he's got his helmet off now, so we're going to be able to get a word with Mike as he just put in a good stint in the car. Mike, we've seen a lot of the competitors going for the win here, having problems. You guys still seem to be in a pretty good position to take it to the 01 car, but do you have the speed?
I don't think so. I mean, it's clear the whole race. When we race wheel to wheel or door to door, no chance. And so we try to keep out of trouble. You know, we are still there. The team is doing a great job. On fueling, we lose 2-3 seconds every stop, so that's not helping. But we did 2 adjustments for my last stint. Some tire pressure adjustment and the rear deck gurney or the rear on the wing, and the car is better, but I think it's as good as it can be. And Joao, one of the best out here, and I'm sure he tries everything he can.
Yeah, we've seen some great drives from Joao Barbosa over the years. Is he going to be able to do anything against Juan Pablo Montoya?
We will see. The car, like I said, is not quick enough. But, you know, it's racing, and you never know. It's over when the checkered is out, and honestly, I would be very happy to be on the podium, because before the race, I wasn't expecting that, the speed we had. And now I think my teammates did a great job. I tried my best now to push real hard. I wasn't here at the pre-test, so it took me a while in the race. But now it's racing, sprint race, and now I think I was up to speed, but it's all depending on traffic.
I'll get some rest. Matt?
And down in the Michael Shanks Racing pit, Marcos Ambrose just finished going around and thanking all the different crew members working on this 60 for giving such a great piece. Boy, you just drove your guts out. 25 seconds was the difference before you hit pit road.
Yeah, I just got to thank Mark Shank Racing for giving me the chance. I had a blast out there. You know, I'm racing against the best sports car drivers in the world, and it was a blast. But I tell you what, I'm whipped. It was a tough run there. We had a good duel with Max, and you know, I just didn't want to give him that spot. So we had fun, and hopefully AJ can bring it home for us.
Lap cars, it seemed like, and other class cars, be creating more and more of a hindrance as we're getting closer to the finish.
Yeah, you know, it's getting better now. It's thinning out some. It's just, you just got to take your chances, you know. And I got unlucky a couple of times, and then, you know, I got pretty forceful and I made some good moves, and then was able to keep track position. So I'm pretty pumped. Thank you to Stanley for giving me the chance to, and Mike Shank has got a great race team. If we win or not, it doesn't matter. This is a first-class, world first-class race team.
Michael said basically the track is getting warmer and warmer, losing more and more grip.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of suiting our car. The looser the track gets, the better we go compared to the field. So it's not easy, but it's fun.
All right, grab a seat, grab some water.
Thank you.
Well, Marcos said it at the top of the show. We told you about the best of the best from IndyCar, from NASCAR, from sports car racing. All the international stars are here, and the very best of the best are going to be in the cars, door to door, wheel to wheel, nose to tail, for the next hour and 43 minutes. You won't want to miss a minute of it. Stay with us. February 8th, Speed presents a historic event as the newest class of the NASCAR Hall of Fame is enshrined. Buck Baker, Cotton Owens, Herb Thomas, Rusty Wallace, and Leonard Wood take their places among the sport's greatest legends. The NASCAR Hall of Fame induction ceremony is February 8th, live here on Speed. Well, the trophy and presumably the Rolex watches are over there at Daytona's world-famous Victory Lane. All we need to do now is to decide who's taking them home.
Pablo Montoya now behind the wheel of the 01 machine. He has been sensational throughout the course of this 24-hour race. We talked about it at the beginning. We questioned the decision by the Ganassi group to put JPM behind the wheel of their championship car, the one that's going for points all season long. Well, Timmy Keane said, I have belief in Juan. He is one of the fastest guys in the business. I can handle him. I can manage him. And Dorsey, so far, so good.
Yeah, he's done a really good job. And like you said, we both looked at each other when that was the case. And because the record that Juan Pablo has not been a clean one as far as sports car racing. He's been very aggressive and has gotten in some trouble.
There's your leader in GT. Porsche, Nicholas Armindo, the Magnus Racing Machine. Hoping to go back-to-back at the Rolex 24 in class.
Short of that spoiler damage you're looking at there, that's the only damage this car sustained throughout the entire event. They've had several occasions of having to put that back on, but short of that, it's been perfect.
I'm not sure. There was a general problem with the Porsche a couple of years ago with that front splitter design, which seemed like they got on top of. So I'm not sure if the car did have an off at some point that has caused this particular car to have these continuous problems. But this one's been on there for a while. A lot of duct tape, as you can see, kind of holding it in position. But the car is playing fast. I mean, they've got track position. They have the lead. They're about 6 laps different on strategy. They're going to pit about 6 laps before the Ferrari of Anthony Lazzaro that currently runs in second spot. But even so, I think all of these GT cars will need 2 more stops to get to the finish anyway, so it shouldn't be a big issue. If you were doing it on 1 less stop, then yes, but if everyone's doing 2, one may be a bit shorter than the other guys, but they're going to need 2 trips down pit lane.
Clint Boyer and Michael Waltrip laying back, watching the telecast. Look pretty relaxed.
Clint looks pretty stressed, doesn't he?
Yeah, very.
He's a cool guy.
I think what happens on these Porsche splitters is once you've torn one off of there, it opens up the holes, elongates the holes, and then the fasteners just don't want to keep them up in there, particularly when you're slamming across the infield curbs like down here in the bus stop. That's really rough down there when it gets dug out. And that's usually around the 5th lap.
Here comes the second place car in GT, Anthony Lazzaro. The Ferrari 458 Italia.
He's had 2 class wins here at Daytona before, and this is his full First full season of sports car racing since 2003, believe it or not. And here we see a caution. Now this will be a change up. 1 hour 36 to go. You're going to burn a little time off that clock before we can actually open pit lane, and then we get to the point where most of these cars.
Sure, debris flag right there, and or oil flag, and that means it's down by turn 1.
I think you're going to see a lot of people take the opportunity to pit. Then they should be able to do it on one more. Split the difference, 45-minute stint. They'll be good to go at that point.
15th full course caution at this year's Rolex 24. We'll be right back. The plot thickens.
Daytona and Indianapolis, the two American cities whose identity is wrapped up in racing. Here at Daytona, it began with the machines designed to take the Worldland speed record. The cars running on the hard-packed sand with the Atlantic in the background. But in 1958, action moved inland to the magnificence of the Daytona International Speedway. It was a track designed for speed, with 31-degree banks that overnight became the track's signature. The first 24-hour race was held in 1966, creating what is informally known as the Triple Crown of endurance racing: Daytona, Sebring, Le Mans.
And welcome to the first leg of that Triple Crown. Now just an hour and 32 minutes from completion. We are under our 15th full course caution. The pits are not yet open, so let's take a look at some more of the highlights of this year's Rolex 24. Hurley Haywood is Grand Marshal, honoring the 40th anniversary of his first victory in this race. Gave the command to start engines. Problems for Scott Dixon of the 02 car. They would persist for the Ganassi team, but Scott Pruitt able to get away well.
GT Polster and Nick Tandy had problems with the 32 Porsche. Hit the tire barrier pretty hard in turn 6. Then you can see the damage. Took several laps to fix here in pit lane. Then a big moment in this race. Defending champions AJ Allmendinger behind the wheel. Suspension issue. Took 7 laps to fix. But now they are in the mix for victory here today.
Cessna 00, one of the very first of the Skyactiv diesel power cars to have trouble. They fixed it. It broke down again. Then the mothership of all of them. Of course, that's Sylvain Tremblay, Speed Source Mazda, and it is out of the race.
All part of the new GX class for alternative technology cars, pretty much dominated by that number 16 Porsche Cayman from Napleton of Illinois. Another example of problems as the teams adjust to new procedures for restarts, pit lane, speeding, and things like that. Fortunately, very little damage as a result of all the confusion.
Cut tire on the 80 car sends him for a wild ride coming off a NASCAR 2. He recovered. No one else involved, and then further problems for a Porsche and the number 68. He had several moments down here. Narrow escape for the number 3 Star DP.
The bus stop got really slippery, as you can see right there, catching more than a few cars off.
Biggie went for a ride, then as the turn one that did Daytona prototypes, narrowly missing the tire wall. He continued, and then one of the Park Place Motorsports Porsches as a tank slapper.
Watch this in the pit lane as Jan Magnussen left in the Camaro, clipping the tire in the Brumos Porsche pit next door. Luckily, nobody hurt.
Now, this car had a problem with the exhaust bracket scraping the ground. Of course, ultimately, it scraped through and the exhaust fell down, and that continues to be a problem for that car.
Another procedural problem for the number 6 car from Michael Shank Racing. Shank wasn't clear on the rule, or he was clear. He thought the officials were unclear on the rule. Either way, you're always going to lose that argument.
Certainly felt violated. This was a great battle. Jamie Mack behind the wheel of the 02 going up against the little Scot, Alan McNish. Traded a bit of paint in the nighttime hours. Then on the next pit stop, Jamie hits his air hose. He'll get a drive-through penalty. You can see how traffic comes into play even on pit lane.
Pit stops have been a huge part of the competition in the race thus far. And it's time for more pit stops. I promised you wheel-to-wheel, nose-to-tail action. We are going to get it when we get a green flag. First pit stops, here come the Daytona prototypes.
Yeah, I'm sure pretty much everyone's going to come here, because if you stop now, you'll do it on one more stop to get to the checkered flag. So now it's down to the crews. Hopefully those cars are refreshed, no real servicing other than fuel. Don't see tires over the wall for the 01, Chris.
Yeah, the Calvin, the 01 already in, not doing tires for Juan Pablo Montoya, but the 10 car, they're going to do fuel and tires. What's interesting is they have a tether on their gas man down here, and well, it looks like the 01's going to beat them out anyway. Trying to short fill on this car before that 01 got a launch and try and get some track position. Matt?
And service already complete on the 60 car. Michael Shank Racing. A.J. Allmendinger, great job by these guys to give him about 8 or 9 seconds of Sunoco race fuel. And guys, did he grab the lead?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Yeah, they jumped out. Both these cars only took fuel. The problem is when you're not all the way out of fuel, it means that refueling is really quick. They were only about 15 minutes into a stint, so it's a 20-gallon tank. They're probably putting 7 or 8 gallons on board, which is about a 10-second stop. Tires are going to take a lot longer than that, so you can see the 10 car is the one that lost a little bit of track position by taking fresh rubber.
You got to think they're looking for speed, though, Calvin, knowing that they can't outrun the cars in front of them without every advantage that they could possibly get, tires being one.
AJ's going to be a pest, you have to say, because it's all about being out front. They know that BMW has fierce straightaway speed, but AJ's a terrier. He's going to not let this one go easily.
Well, last year, A.J. Allmendinger got car owner Mike Shank to agree to shave A.J.'s initials into his haircut if they won the race. They did. Michael did. He's with Matt.
And what a run by these guys. Michael, you have to be so proud of your guys, the never give up attitude. You were down 7 laps, got 4 laps down, and then you got another 6 laps. You guys have just been unbelievable.
It's been amazing. I call that a little Parrott County ingenuity, a little town where I'm from back home, but that worked out beautifully. Great strategy by Jay Schaffner today and Dale Wise. And over-the-wall guy, Ralph, the fueler, hit it hard today. So that got us out. I don't think we can beat them, but we're going to have fun right up into that point they pass us.
You talk about how special last year's win was, and over your shoulder is the nose section from last year's car. It still has about 24 hours of dirt and grime and celebration on it, bringing it back for good luck.
Yeah, you know, I was offered like $40,000 for that thing, and I would not sell it. And I hope all day today I wouldn't have to use it. So, you know, I got another one from the 6 car, unfortunately, sitting here, so we'll put that one on and keep this 50th anniversary one.
All right, good luck to the run.
Right.
That's a good guy right there.
He is stoked. I mean, that is a brilliant performance, and that's what the regulations allow you to do. Claw these laps back, stay in the game, stay focused, and that's what it's all about. There we see the crew guys, the other drivers, they've done a brilliant job. Oz Negri with that injury that he sustained. John Pugh, they call him a Pro-Am driver, but he is really, really talented. And Justin Wilson, he has certainly driven the wheels off this 60 machine to get them back in the hunt.
What's the first thing I noticed about that? John Pugh, Oz Negri, and Justin Wilson all sitting there, uniform zipped up to the neck, as if they could be the next guy in this car. There they are.
They're all pretty happy looking, too. They've gone through a really, really long night. That team has battled, and they're sitting pretty right now. They got the right guy behind the wheel.
Come the GT cars, led by the number 44 car. Nicolas Amindo behind the wheel. Will they do a driver change? I think Leitz may take it to the finish. Lazaro's got a heavy stint he's entailing if he's going to try and carry the load all the way to the checkered flag. Then we see one of the Audis, Rene Rast, coming into the 52. Now it's going to be down to the crews. Chris?
Yeah, and Calvin, it's not going to be Anthony Lazaro that takes it to the finish. He's going to do one more stint in this car, and then they're going to go with the fresh young face, Mark Wilkins, to finish this thing out. He's getting some rest right now. This Ferrari has definitely taken a beating out here. Some of the panels crushed in on the car, but I checked with Ian Willis. He said the car is working great, even after those hits that it did take earlier today. But looks like we're done. 44 guys.
It looks like they may have overshot their pit box a little bit, had to shuffle the car back. It looks awfully tight to the wall as well. So that is a big mistake if they have got a problem there, because he had a clear pit box coming in, being the first one on pit lane. Here, Richard Leitz is maybe getting in behind the wheel. That's what I expected. He is fierce behind the wheels of one of these Porsches. There goes the Ferrari, so you can see 44 has definitely lost track position with this faulty pit stop.
Definite driver change. Saw that happening when they got the car where they had to push it back. It is very tight to the wall, like you said. It's going to make everything difficult on that side.
Being very, very careful with the pit stop. And you can see just how tight it was for the tire changer at the rear.
It was an early release. He was struggling to get the gun out of the wheel.
Oh, we got all those lugs on. Let's take another look at what happened as Nicolas Armindo brought it in.
45 miles an hour. It's all about focus, keeping your head in the game.
Yeah, I got just a splitter over the white line there. Watch, she'll catch it here in a second. You have to push it back.
Yeah, and I think the key is that those crew members need to be inside the box, and he can't service that car with his feet outside of that white line, and they just got to get him in there. So because the hose is long enough, but that would have been a penalty if they'd refueled him with one of the crew members being outside of the box.
And you know what happened right there was he unplugged his helmet when he came down pit lane. Couldn't hear.
Now let's check the rest of the highlights from our race recap. Deep into the nighttime At the halfway mark, Dario Franchitti in the 0-2 from Chip Ganassi Racing with Felix Sabatis was the overall race leader. But then problems struck as Jamie McMurray got in the car and while trying to work with a pit lane speed limiter, tagged the wall exiting the pits, and that cost them 6 or 7 laps in the garage.
It did, and then we get through these nighttime hours, and then the fog hit. Dorsey, you were here, and you tried your motorhome.
The fog got so bad you couldn't see the race cars anymore, and so they put them behind the pace car. They didn't red flag it, but they stayed that way for quite a long time.
About 90 minutes. But then the sun burned off the fog and we went racing once again.
Ryan Dial leading the field back to green, looking for another Daytona 24-hour win, but it won't be their day. Then a bit of a bad move here by Goncalves. It slides it down the inside in traffic. That was never going to work, and that ultimately cost them their day.
Problems for Starworks Motorsport. Alex Popov in the car. Straight line the chicane, not once, not twice, but 3 times at least. And that took a heavy toll on the tires and the bodywork.
Cost them a lap, but they fought hard, got back on the lead lap, but then brake issues kind of scuppered their chances, even though they are back in the game. Then look at this, big moment for the 30 machine. Front left suspension completely explodes coming through the tri-oval. Look at that from the onboard. Driver was taking a bit of a breather there and really got caught out. Lucky it wasn't the right front, otherwise he'd have been in the fence.
And they were the class leader at the time. It became a Ferrari 1-2 until this moment in 1.
Mark Wilkins gets turned around by the 63 machine. Just jumped on the brakes a little bit too hard, got twitchy, couldn't get it slowed up. Hits the back of Mark, turns him around. Then further problems for the 0-2. Driveline issues. Was that a fault because of the hit by Jamie McMurray earlier in the race?
More great battling now. Ryan Hunter-Ray in the number 10 car from Wayne Taylor Racing. Battling the 0-1. Wave after wave of world-class drivers from both Wayne Taylor Racing and Chip Ganassi.
He fought hard, but the BMWs certainly have some poke on these straightaways, and we know that Ganassi runs their cars really trimmed out here, so it's a combination, but they have speed. Look at this, Marcus Ambrose. He's having a lot of fun.
Picking up a position. And then challenging for second.
Takes the position away from Max the Axe in the brake zone there for the chicane. Mike Shank is happy. Worked hard to get that car back on the lead lap. Now there's only one car in front of them.
And here's how we stand. A.J. Allmendinger in the defending race championship car is the leader. Damian Faulkner in the number 23 car is the GT leader, and in GX, David Donahue, son of Mark Donahue, in a Porsche. It doesn't get more dramatic than this. The green is out as we return to coverage of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. A.J. Allmendinger with Juan Pablo Montoya, Joao Barbosa, and Max Angelelli on his bumper.
AJ timed that to perfection. I was expecting JPM to have a run at him, but he didn't make it happen. So AJ now has to hit his marks through this infield section before he gets to that banking.
AJ intentionally didn't go because he saw that run about to happen by Juan Pablo. That was a really, really good read on his part.
Really good restart. Pace car dropped off the apron relatively late. They waited on the green. And I think everyone's just gradually getting used to these new restart rules. You can pass before the stripe, unlike previous years in Grand Am competition. And I think all of the drivers like that move. Remember the 0-1, Pruitt talked about it. Took a couple of laps for this car to really come in. Is Montoya struggling a little bit here before he can start to put some pressure on A.J. Allmendinger. Key is now getting on the power early. Slightly wider line by JPM as he tries to unwind that wheel and get the throttle down, Dorsey.
Timmy Keene watching the broadcast. He's going to watch from now on really closely.
There's Memo Rojas right there. Right. Yep, he's a guy whose entire season depends on what happens to Juan Pablo Montoya in the next hour and 11 minutes.
I'm sure Timmy Keene is going to look at how Montoya literally behaves here in these next couple of laps. If he gets really racy and really aggressive, I'm sure he'll try and calm him down and tell him we've got plenty of time on the clock. Don't take any unnecessary risks. We have the dominant car here.
Yeah, I don't think he needs to take risks. I'm going to show you why. Watch the power of that BMW. Nobody has been able to run with this car on a straight line, and it handles well too. Here it comes.
Closes in, couple of car lengths, now feeling the drop big time. Montoya likes that outside line. AJ will have seen it. How will he defend? He had McNish do a similar thing to him last year and force him out wide. They're not side by side, just good clean racing at the moment.
Emphasis on the clean.
Remember, Montoya has the freshest brakes in this leading group as well.
And when you have to defend from a car that has better top end than you, you're working harder because you got to really, really nail those brake zones. And for this situation, Juan Pablo is not going to have to work nearly as hard as AJ Allmendinger is.
Two races with different complexions for these two teams, but both perfectly executed. The dominant car all day long. The 01, they haven't made any mistakes. The 60 have rebounded from the suspension issue and got back to lead the Daytona 24-hour race. It's the 8th year in a row that AJ Allmendinger has led this race. The crew told him that on the radio. He said, forget that. I want it to be the 2nd year in a row that I win it.
Be a little closer. You're clear by 4.
I expect AJ to get very aggressive here because he's just sitting up to the power of that BMW.
I spoke with Memo Gidley during the 3 days of Grand Am Rolex testing, the so-called roar before the 24, and asked him about the strongest team in the pit lane. Gidley said, without doubt, it's Chip Ganassi racing with Felix Sabates. And it wasn't just about who has how many revs and so on. It's because the Ganassi team has such a vast amount of experience running multiple cars in NASCAR Sprint Cup in addition to the IZOD IndyCar Series. And they have the resources and the personnel and the equipment and everything you need to create the most dominant car out there. And that's really a part of the game.
It is, but they're a really efficient group, Bob. They have money, but they don't waste money. You don't see them doing a lot of testing. They spend the money in the right areas. And Chip Ganassi, I think the reason for all of this is his success is the people that he employs. He puts the right people in the right places, from Mike Hull down to Timmy Keene.
Clear by 2.
That's Barry Waddell from Skip Operational Mile Buddies. It's talking to AJ Allmendinger on the radio, coaching him through. Barry, a really good coach, by the way.
How about that lap comparison for those two guys?
Pretty tight, 300s.
300ths of a second. It's nice to have somebody talk you through this when you're under pressure like this, too. Another set of eyes really helps.
I think Montoya's car is now starting to hit the sweet spot. You can see it. Just holding these corners and these apexes a little bit better than he did on the open lap. Now he gets aggressive on jumped on the throttle. They're starting to loosen up a little bit.
Picking up the GT battle now, where we also have a nose-to-tail and side-by-side fight going on. Anthony Lazzaro in the 69 Ferrari. Rene Rast, in fact, the third-place car. Marcus Winkle there as well.
The Audis got to the inside. The Ferrari against two Audis right now, and that's been a strong contingent of Audis down here.
Look at this. After 23 hours of racing, we have side-by-side racing for the lead in both categories. It doesn't get any better. Lazzaro, who took that shallow entry to that final corner, and here we go, 3 wide, down to the bus stop chicane for the lead in GT.
Who's going to get the brakes?
Oh, that's tight.
Oh.
Awesome.
1, 2, and 3 became 3, 2, and 1.
We said Montoya's car's coming in. He's got half a car. He's going to take it in deep on the brakes. He has brakes to go. AJ takes it in even deeper.
Squirming on the brakes. Allmendinger holds off Montoya.
Fighting hard. AJ Allmendinger wants a second Rolex.
That was right at the limit. You see the squirmingness on the braking? I mean, both those cars could have been in the fence just one little bit more.
And look at that white 5 coming up. Drop off both sides.
Yeah, he likes this too.
And in GT, Lazzaro takes the lead back in the Ferrari. Breaks forward, he's really wide. Takes it in too deep. Gives the positions back. He's up in the dirt. This is 10. The 13 is around. Winkelhock spins it down in turn 1.
Oh my gosh.
Wouldn't be a bit surprised if he didn't drop wheels in the grass to the inside. They were 3 wide down there.
Let me correct myself. That's the 9 from Action Express. Yeah, that's Barbosa right there in 3rd place.
Max the Axe in the mix as well.
1, 2, 3, 4, all nose to tail on the high banks.
Ford, BMW, Chevy.
Got 5 car lengths, 4 car lengths.
See this draft now. I mean, 4 cars are punching a big hole in the air as they go down the back straight.
There's been a lot of complaints in the paddock about performance balance here this week, but I tell you what, the end of 23 hours of racing, and you've got 3 different manufacturers covered by a blanket.
Montoya showed Allmendinger the nose to the outside. Allmendinger drifted to the right to take the piece of track that Montoya needed to break into the corner.
That's 3 car lengths.
Great thrust and parry between 2 pros.
Here comes that BMW power again. There's not much you can do. AJ's going to drive it in down in one. Guarantee he's done it every lap.
He's got it. He's a little bit further ahead. He's going to try and clear him and tuck it down.
Yep. Now you got to try to force him to go in too deep.
Now AJ will try the outside.
Brown's not going to let that happen.
Wow, what a move by Allmendinger. He tries to go the outside of Montoya.
Yeah, but he's going to get rubbed off if he gets out there.
That's no man's land. That was going to be problems if he tried to hang there.
Now he tries the outside. He'll try to switch back to the inside on the exit. Watch, he'll try to tuck in here.
Barbosa sticks his nose in. I'm not sure even AJ is looking in those mirrors. He's just on the attack at the moment. If he slips, Barbosa will be through.
Another former winner of the Rolex 24. There's nothing but experienced winning drivers up front.
Montoya slides wide a little bit, try to carry apex speed through there. The car is not totally hooked up, or Montoya's just driving it over the edge a little bit. He's slipping and sliding. Max the Axe wants some of this action.
These guys, second, third, and fourth, really need to work together now. They need to get in a tight draft and try to run down that BMW power. If they don't, Juan Pablo's going to be out of here in a minute.
Perhaps that's why Montoya was driving it so hard on the infield. He didn't want to rely on top speed on the straights. He wanted to gap the others as best he could on the infield so he could widen that gap on the straights and give himself a little breathing room.
Last lap, Tom Montoya was 600ths faster than Allmendinger. There's going to be a lot more than that on this lap as he starts to put some gap between he and his competitors. What a fight by Allmendinger, though. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was. It's really tough when the guy's out driving you on the straightaway. There's not a great deal you can do at Daytona. This is the only racetrack we run at like this, so it might not be so pronounced, but at this racetrack, it's all about horsepower.
Montoya's seen it happen to him. Remember back in 2009, David Donahue did a similar move on him right through this trioval to take the lead with just 40 minutes to go.
Now we've got traffic ahead of the leaders.
And that's the key. You've got to keep the pressure on. You've got to be close enough where if Montoya has a bobble in traffic, you are close enough to pounce.
Able to clear the GT car.
Here comes Max the Axe down the inside. Leaves it really late. Chevy side by side trading paint. Barbosa said, no way, man.
Great stuff.
He had too much speed to stay down to the inside. He knew it. The switchback was perfectly executed.
We talked about it yesterday. This would be a shootout in the final couple of hours. We expected more players in the game. We've got it. We've got 4.
Credit Barbosa with keeping his cool when Max the Axe came down the inside. I don't know if there was contact, but Barbosa just hit the brakes, turned under him, gassed it, and got back by.
He immediately knew what he had to do. He knew he was going to come in there that deep that he was going to wash out wide. The only option, outbrake him, go to the inside, and try to get the power down first.
Barbosa had 2 wins last year that were all him. This team loves him. They believe in him. He's the only man, the only driver on this team that kept his job this year. They feel he is the real deal, and he has shown it again today.
Boy, AJ had a great exit right there. Just flung it through there. Got a good shot off. Runs the bottom hill. Bottom of the line is the slowest. We're hearing about a full-course caution because of debris. It wouldn't surprise me at this point in the race to have debris. Oh, my God.
Look at them.
Yeah, straight. Somebody blew a tire.
Back up.
Yeah, somebody exploded a tire all over the place there.
I think it's off the number 45 Magnus Racing Porsche.
Okay, now there's going to be some strategy come into play. You can only go about 45 minutes on fuel. You can see it there. An hour plus on the clock. There you see the damage, the right rear corner on that Porsche.
Shattered tire at the right rear. Did what flat tires usually do. Tore up the car.
Tell you what, if I'm the 10 team, 4th in line on the lead lap, I'd be taking fuel. Tougher decision for the leaders.
Man, you can't script this.
Now you got to wonder if you ran through all those steel belts that are laying all over out there. Did it cut your tire down?
Right.
I mean, that's the other thing. Other than the fuel, that was a debris field that you couldn't help but go through.
Timmy Keene won this race back in 2011 with a very similar situation. He pitted Scott Pruitt from 3rd position. Mike Hull kept the 0-2 out there. They didn't want the 10 car back on the lead lap, and that meant that Pruitt's last pit stop was a lot shorter. Maybe one of their competitors now will play the same game on them.
And they don't have that 0-2 car to help them. To Chris Neville.
Well, I just checked in with Wayne Taylor, wondering if Max Angelelli had flat spotted the tires when he dove into that infield horseshoe, and Wayne shook his head, said no problem with the tires. So we remember back to the last pit stop, the 10 car was the only car in that lead group that took tires. So on this stop, I'm expecting just fuel in this car. Going to be very interesting to see what everybody else does. Matt?
Chris, when AJ was finally passed by Juan Pablo, AJ keyed the mic and he told the team, "I'm sorry, I gave it the best we could." And Mike Shake quickly jumped in. "No, sir, you're doing a great job. Shake it off. Don't worry about it. We still have an hour left. Remember, your exits are better than everybody. Just concentrate on those and we should be okay."
Someone's got to roll the dice here. So much harder for the dominant car to make the right call. For the others, and they can also see what the other one's going to do first.
That's right. All they have to do is react.
More trouble here with the 45. Still rubbing.
Could be another tire problem coming up for that car.
Yeah, I'll be lucky to get around without popping that.
Now let's watch that battle between the 9 and the 10. This is the braking that Chris was talking about, but no sign of, well, a little bit of time.
Not much, not much.
Yeah. He rotated that wheel again really quickly. Calling Max the X, he's so good on the brakes. He took it in there really deep, but Barbosa, what a response. That is a statement.
Just counterpunching without even having to think about it.
That's two guys on top of the game. I mean, both of them knew the situation, what they were playing for.
Who's going to blink first here?
I want to see what happens here. That's going to be interesting. Look at the time, 59 minutes left.
If you stay out, you can do it on one more stop, but it will be a lengthy stop. If you come in now, top up, if you then come in with someone else, you could potentially leapfrog them by only needing a short fill.
Yeah, that was a splash.
This time yesterday, the whole 24 hours lay ahead. You had a lot of time to react and do whatever you thought you needed to do to be ready at the end. Well, now we're at the end, and you've got to make quick and proper decisions. Cleanup continues down at turn 4.
Light's still on.
Closed.
Pits are closed.
We're seeing a red light at the pit entrance, so they'll go around again. Stand by for more. Once again, all the cars have to negotiate that debris field. Back live with the Rolex 24 at Daytona with Calvin Fish and Dorsey Schrader. I'm Bob Barsha. Chris Neville and Matt Yoakum are in the pit lane. Time for pit stops if you want them.
Here they come. 01 is coming in. We're so close now to making that winner. A little bit of caution. Didn't make it without a splash. Chris.
Calvin, I just checked in with my teams, Ganassi, Extra Express, and also Wayne Taylor's Velocity Worldwide team. All these teams saying that if we get another caution, they can make it. If we go green, all of them having to come back to pit lane for anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds of fuel. It looks like the 01 and the Extra Express tires. No tires on the 10. Max Angelelli, the first down. Matt?
And down in the 60 pit, they finally got the right rear on. AJ is away. They've topped him off with some Sunoco fuel. They went back and forth, guys, about how he was on his tires. He said, "I've just got a four-wheel drift all over."
Yeah, and the 9 car, I think, just leapfrogged around the 60 car there, Matt. Great call by the Velocity Worldwide team there, not taking tires. Wasn't a full fill. What we're looking at now, 54 minutes on the board. These guys go about 45. They need 9 minutes of help in terms of this caution being extended or maybe grabbing another one.
Let's get down and hear what Wayne Taylor thinks of his team's strategy.
Well, Wayne Taylor always looking nervous, definitely looking nervous now. Okay, I checked in with all these teams. It looks like if we stay green, nobody can make it. But how much fuel are you going to need?
I think we're all in the same boat. It's going to be tough, you know. I mean, clearly the 01, I mean, he's going to be right behind us. Whether we can hold him off or not, I don't know. I think it is going to come down to fuel at the end. But obviously what we're going to do is save as much as we can and look after the tires, you know. So we didn't put tires in that time. Everybody else put tires. But we had done the previous stint. So, you know, these guys are doing a fantastic job. And couldn't be more proud of them.
All these drivers are tired. It's starting to warm up. I heard Max call for putting a new water bottle in the car on this stop. And Simon Hodgson, your crew chief, said, no water now. You got to dig deep. Is he going to be able to make it?
We have the Max the X here today. He's going to pull this off.
Matty?
Down in the Michael Shanks race a bit. Michael, at this scenario, what numbers are you looking at as far as how much fuel you'll need near the end?
We're close. We're real close. I don't want to say on Hexus right now, but we're pretty close right now.
And when AJ was coming down pit road, he said, all right, AJ, let's do this, hopefully for the last time today.
It's going to turn into a fuel mileage race here without a caution. I mean, these guys are going to gamble it. You can tell by the way they're talking already. I mean, I think they're maybe 2 laps short. But
yeah, I think they're a few minutes short, Dorsey. I mean, they've been doing about 45, 46 minutes since there's 6 minutes on the board. We're still under caution. But remember, the Ford team have been stretching their mileage a little bit further, a lap or two over the BMW. So, for someone like Allmendinger, if they can keep him under control and say, just manage your fuel, use that draft. You've got those 3 guys in front of you. Use the draft to hold the speed and just roll out of the gas pedal. That's how you save fuel at the end of these straightaways, just easing out of that gas pedal, Dorsey. If he can save a little bit and that Ford fuel mileage, maybe that'll be enough to be a difference.
You can really do that here, Calvin, going into turn 1, because you're coming off of an 18-degree bank. It's on a downhill run. You can just kick the thing up into neutral and coast it on in there, and you don't lose that much time.
Chris Neville is with Tim Keene in the Ganassi pits.
Well, Tim talking to his crew down here, but Tim, everybody fueling up there, but we have seen the Fords go a little bit longer during this race. Do you think they can stretch the fuel?
No, I don't think so. You have to get 5.75 right now. In order to do that, you're going to have to go pretty slow, and I think if that would just kill you. We'd have too much of a lead on you by the time it's over.
All right, here we go. Getting ready to go green.
We are green once again. Green flag in the air. You're racing, gentlemen. You notice on that pit stop, too, the Ganassi team took just about the same amount of time in the pits as the 10 car did, even though the Ganassi car changed tires in addition to fuel.
Look at Allmendinger. He goes around the long way. Around Montoya, he takes 3rd spot. Barbosa is loose. Allmendinger will be on the attack here in the brake zone.
Oh, and he's gone by
the outside.
Barbosa jumped the
Look at this. He's going to try and ride the rim shot here. Will Barbosa get rid of it? No, he's
going to push him off for sure.
So much being fair.
Now he's got a radiator full. That's not good.
And he's dropped back in front of the 99 in 6th place.
Putting it all on the line. So much for saving fuel and right in the draft. AJ wanted the lead.
At the start, Barbosa jumped. Juan Pablo got around him cleanly, and then out of nowhere, here comes AJ. And he got pushed off of that first.
Montoya's the more conservative one in this group. Who would have thought that?
My point is, Barbosa, I want to see if there's any repercussion on that start. I don't think there will be.
Well, remember, when the green flag is out, you go racing. We can't see the green flag.
Watch Barbosa. Watch him. He's a 3rd place car. Now he makes his move. It's not green yet. Now watch him. He just drives right by. There's the green. I don't know, boys.
Well, I think the green might have been in the air. Of course, they're relying on their spotters, green, 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 to tell them when it's out. And this was the Barbosa-Allmendinger incident.
Yeah, that was a tough one. AJ just being super aggressive there. You know, at this stage of the game, no one's going to be that clean and give you a full car width there. They may give you 2 wheels on the pavement. You're not going to keep all 4 on that track.
And now we get the word the 9 car will stop for a minute for avoidable contact.
Wow, that is a really tough call at this stage of the game. The penalty is for the contact, not for potentially a jump start. We're not sure on that one, but that is a really tough call in the final hour of this race.
Takes another player out of the game.
AJ was being super aggressive, and Barbosa gave it to him. He's essentially handing him that position.
Wow, that's interesting. Now there needs to be caution, or that car's eliminated.
Okay, here we see the battle here. These guys did not pit, so they're going to have to hit pit lane again.
Anthony Lazzaro with the Ferrari, Rene Rast in the Audi.
Saw the Ferrari have a little bit more straight line speed at the very end of the straights. On these Audis, the Porsche seem to have the most, but right now he's in a battle with an Audi, so that's what he's got to defend. Be a tough call for this AIM Autosport team if you're doing a green flag start. We heard earlier that they were going to turn it over to young Mark Wilkins to take it to the checkered flag. That is certainly a vote of confidence for that driver, but strategy may play a part. Side by side here as the Audi gets to the inside.
On board with Richard Westbrook in the 90 Daytona prototype.
3 wide coming off the banking here.
Westy's in 5th spot in DP, a little ways behind here, but look at this. This is for the lead in GT, right behind that Daytona prototype. The Audi takes it in deep. Rene Rast going for his second consecutive win here at the 24. Won with Magnus last year. He wants to give Audi their first win.
You let that happen smartly.
Meanwhile, Max Angelelli continues to draw away from this pair. Juan Pablo Montoya can't wait too long. He knows, presumably, that the car ahead will have to go to the pits.
Remember, the Ganassi car takes a few laps to get up to speed. And look, a switchback
to Matt Yoakum.
And AJ brings the car in, the grill completely packed, full of grass, and he's away.
I'm surprised they didn't take a splash of fuel there unless I didn't see it, Matt. There was no fuel, right?
I don't know why they wouldn't have done fuel.
There was no fuel.
Wow. I would have talked them up and let them go for it. Because right now they are outside a fuel window. I don't get that one. Just a couple of seconds of fuel would have given him enough.
Watching the battle in GT. Rene Rast in that Audi R8. Former winner of this race. In fact, he won it a year ago with the Magnus team, I believe.
Ferrari must have top speed because he got back around. Anthony Lazaro took that position back to watch it.
Yeah, advantages in different spots right now. And Anthony's been on a long stint here. He's going to be worn out. And look at that. He's having to defend when he takes that shallow entry here. Rast just sets him up and tucks it to the inside and gets the power down while the Audi is really hooked up. Look at that. That is easy. That is racing 101. When you go in on that shallow entry, you're going to run wide coming off.
But the Ferrari's got the legs. Watch it here.
Maybe that's the ace up Lazaro's sleeve. He recognized it. As long as I'm side by side, I've got a little bit more top end. This is where it comes in.
High up in the rev range.
I think Rast is going to take it in deep. He does. Great battle. These manufacturers came here last year, had a few problems, but boy, oh boy, they have come here in force this year. 4 Audis, a handful of Ferraris in the field.
Let's get the official word on fuel at Shank.
I just talked to Mike Shank, and he said simply, we don't need fuel, we should be good. Well, but you know what? Like they say, there's a lot of poker going on up and down pit road here. And also, it's like poker. If you got a chip on the table, you're still in the game.
Remember the top speed of that Ferrari on the big straightaway off the banking. That's where the advantage is, Calvin. Just simply drove around the Audi.
It's going to be tight on that Ford. I mean, if Mike Shank is confident he's got enough fuel, I'm sure he is. But that is stretching it further than we've seen. And I don't know why you wouldn't take it.
Montoya was told by his crew, the 60 is good on fuel, you better go. We're all watching the same
thing. Look at this.
So,
they rush around the outside of Ferrari, gets his
ride. This is great racing.
Drag race to the kink. Quick left-hander coming up.
Oh, you can't go side by side through there.
What a performance by Anthony Lazaro. He's running up against these young hot rod European kids. He turns 50 soon.
Let's get a comment from Chris Neville.
Well, Bob, just listening to Tim King talking to Juan Pablo Montoya on the radio for about the last 4 or 5 laps, just saying, hey, I got to get around this 9 car. And Tim King telling him, don't worry, they're going to be coming in for a penalty, but it's been taking a long time as Elton Sawyer's group has been trying to lobby to keep that car on the racetrack. And while all this is happening, Max Angelelli is driving away.
Well, that's exactly the point, Chris. Montoya can't wait while they appeal the penalty to the 9, because there goes Max Angelelli.
They'll give you a couple of laps. Now you've got to bring him in or stop scoring, and that's what's happening right now. So Montoya, no one between he and the leader.
Nobody touched the car, nobody over the wall, nothing.
So somebody rolled the dice and came up snake eyes. Joao Barbosa will be there for 60 seconds. We'll take a break and return. Back at Daytona moments ago, Juan Pablo Montoya closed the gap to Max Angelelli in the race-leading Corvette Daytona prototype and passed him into the chicane on the backstretch here at Daytona International Speedway.
To use a quote from my old mate Lee Diffie, this won't take long, did it?
70-second lead change with this Rolex 24. That's an all-time record. And now Montoya has to deal with traffic.
We are hearing on the radio that Montoya is 4 laps shy on fuel. So if that's the case, how is the 60 going to make it without help on yellow? I really feel
They may have dropped the ball there a little bit and not taken a splash. Just 2 or 3 seconds of fuel could have given A.J. Allmendinger an advantage here.
The same amount of time it took to clean that radiator would have sealed the fate for the fuel. Now he's got to wait for a yellow, or hope for a yellow, I should say.
Exactly. One more yellow and that all goes out of the window, but if we stay green, it could be critical.
Now, moments ago, the 52 Audi in the battle with this 69 Ferrari for the race lead in GT. Hit it. Rene Rast in and out. Here is Anthony Lazzaro. Chris Neville.
And Anthony Lazzaro handing over to Mark Wilkins. He's going to finish this race. He was subbing in this weekend for Guy Cosmo, who had a medical issue. So Mark Wilkins getting the call late, just I think about a week or so ago, to drive this car, and he's done a great job. So the team really showing how much confidence they have in this young Canadian. Car still looks great. The team is reporting that the car is working great. So there's a lot of victory for Ferrari.
Great strategy here by the 69 team. Once one of the other GT leaders is pitted, you have to follow suit if you're in your fuel window, because if it goes yellow, pits are closed, you're going to get shuffled back. So question is now, who did the best pit stop? Here comes the Audi out on the racetrack. And here comes the 69, driven by young Canadian Mark Wilkins. A lot of pressure on this young man. Never driven this car before this week on the Thursday test day. But what a performance he's put in. Can he respond now and win that Rolex for the first time?
Well, the Ferrari's going to make it out in front of the Audi, but the Audi's got warm tires by now, and the Ferrari does not.
The Audi's also got traffic, and the Ferrari does not.
This next lap or two is going to be crucial for the 69. Rene Rast has won before in these R8s. He's won this race before. He's been in a similar position. For Mark Wilkins, he's used to driving Daytona prototypes. He doesn't have a lot of GT experience, but he loved this Ferrari from the moment he got in it.
We know how fast he is, too. There's no doubt about his ability behind the wheel. And here they are. I think he's in good shape because he's got on the back straightaway, and the Ferrari's faster up the straightaway.
I looked down into the pit lane to the AIM FXDT Ferrari team, and there was a lot of high-fiving going on among the crew. I think they figure they nailed it.
Well, they've nailed it, but I think Rene Rast is probably going to close this gap over the next lap. The tires are coming in a lot better for Rene Rast than for Mark Wilkins. There you see the AIM team totally pumped up. Perfectly executed race thus far.
Audi's definitely faster through the corners, no doubt, and in the brake zones. But that top-end speed that Ferrari has makes that hand a better hand, I think.
Spoke to Mark Wilkins the other day after he had some laps. He said, I'm really comfortable in the car. He said, compared to Vilander, who drives these cars all of the time, I'm losing a few tenths in the brake zones. Otherwise, I am good. Right now, he's going to have to find those precious tenths in the brake zones if he's going to defend from this Audi.
37 minutes and change remaining in the 2013 Rolex 24 at Daytona. Montoya leads in the overall and Daytona prototype. Ferrari leads in GT. Less than 35 minutes remaining in the Rolex 24 at Daytona. And Juan Pablo Montoya in the Chip Ganassi Racing with Philip Sabates. BMW Riley has motored away to a 5.5-second lead right now over Max Angelelli in the Velocity Worldwide Wayne Taylor Racing Corvette Daytona prototype. And A.J. Allmendinger is now third in the number 60, shown the best part of a lap down after having to make an emergency pit stop.
Well, that last lap, Montoya did a 41.9 to Max Angelelli's 43.1. Second plus. That is huge at this stage of the game. We talked about having a car at 100%. This car has been at 100% throughout the course of now 23.5 hours.
There's the 52 Audi and the 69 Ferrari. They have both pitted. They run 5th and 6th in GT right now, but the 4 cars ahead of them, 2 Porsches and 2 Audis, we believe are going to have to make another pit stop. So this is effectively the race for the lead in GT right now. With that, let's send it down to our Speed Infield studio and join Brian Till, Tommy Kendall, and Justin Bell. Guys, what do you think?
Tommy and I came over here, Bob, from the television compound outside the racetrack. We really didn't want to leave the monitor over there because obviously both in Daytona prototype and in GT, as we're watching right now, the battles are so good, it was hard to move away from in front of the television.
Yeah, literally as good as it gets. To be racing this hard, this fast, with this much racing behind them is unbelievable. You commented on the lap that Juan Pablo just did, and even though he's stretched away, the lap before that was within a tenth of the fastest lap lap of the race, a 41.4. And even though he's got a gap, you're like, why is he still digging? Well, even though it's unlikely that the 60 can get there on fuel, it sounds like they got him turned all the way up just in case. And just in case it stays green till the end. This is going to be a good one.
I was sitting just having a quick snack between leaving the booth and coming down here with Pedro Lamy, and we're both watching it with our mouths open going, and it said on the clock at that point 1 hour and 5 minutes. And I was like, I bet the drivers actually wish it was just the 5-minute part.
Well, 32 minutes to go, and while Montoya has a great lead, I kind of agree with Calvin. I know the problems that AJ had, hard-nosed racing there on that restart, but I feel like if they had splashed him with fuel, then certainly you could have run the car as hard as you could, the 60 all the way to the end, knowing that everybody else was going to have to stop. You needed to come in and get the grass off, but take the advantage there and throw some more fuel in it. It's going to be questionable in my mind anyway if the 60 can make it. We know the Fords have been getting better mileage, but is it enough?
Time will tell if that is the difference. And, you know, the emotions are high. Everybody's exhausted, sleep deprived. So whether they let that slip in the heat of the moment or not, we'll find out. But watching Montoya a second ago, I was just in awe of the precision. If you look at the marks he's hitting, he's using every inch of curb, but super, super tidy. 41.4, 41.9, 41.7. And this is the guy there, everybody's like, what were they thinking put him in this car? And you think we're making too big a deal about that. Last year, I talked to Grant Weaver on Chip Ganassi Racing. Last year, it got so bad, they had to have their neon signal pit sign say, Montoya is not in the O2. There were so many drivers upset with him that they put that on their lit-up signal board in the middle of the night. And so this is an inspired move by Chip and Tim to put him in this car, and looking like the right call.
Well, Calvin, I guess you'd agree that, but JP cannot make one mistake. It's important he's that accurate. With Max only sitting there 7 seconds behind, that can come undone in a heartbeat. Remember, we've seen them lose up to 3 seconds in traffic. And obviously it's thinning out a little bit now, but that could be an issue.
It could, but he is hitting his mark, like TK said. He's had the rhythm of this racetrack throughout the course of the whole event, and you can just see it and just see the language of the car. I think last year the Ganassi boys didn't really have a handle on this Gen 3 Riley. They worked hard through last season. Mid-year, it came on form, and boy, Montoya likes it, obviously.
Last lap, Juan Pablo Montoya was 9/10 of a second quicker than Max Angelelli, and 2.5 seconds quicker than AJ Allmendinger. But we still have half an hour to run here at Daytona. Don't go away. Back at Daytona, where the Rolex 24-hour race is shortly about to become the Rolex 24-minute race. As we get into the final half hour live here on Speed on this beautiful Sunday in January. Here's a look at the top 10 in Daytona prototype. Right now, Juan Pablo Montoya, hoping to add his third victory overall in this race, leads Max Angelelli and AJ Allmendinger in a battle of BMW, Chevrolet, and Ford. In the GT class, Felipe Albuquerque, a former GP2 driver in Europe, is leading in an Audi.
Those top 4 cars, Bob, have not made that final pit stop. If there was a big yellow, they may be able to stretch it, but listening to their radio communication, we understand that top 4 in the race right now do need to pit. Will that leapfrog Rene Rast and Mark Wilkins, who currently run 5th and 6th, we'll have to wait and see as it cycles through.
Second place driver in GT is Damian Faulkner in another Audi. So the Audi effort at the Rolex 24 has become very, very effective.
Right now, Alex Job is running 1-2. He's got that Audi out front. He's got that Porsche in second. What a performance by that team. Running 2 different manufacturers. That has got to be a headache, but they are handling it well at this point.
But he really needs a yellow to be in this, I think, because they've been out there 14 laps on this fuel run. They're going to have to stop one more time.
Well, I think they're about 5-8 minutes shy, and a yellow can burn, get you a lot of time back. What do you think, TK?
Yeah, I suspect one thing to watch, I'm trying to figure out here, we don't have our whole monitor, is what is the gap? There's stops can be a short one, so it's going to be shorter than all those other guys' stops. So is there a chance that 24 can get out with those leaders?
Well, the leaders, when we say the leaders, the guys who are running 5th and 6th, Renee Rast and Wilkins, are running a little bit stronger lap times, and they had track position before, so I think they'd need a little bit of help. Certainly that pit stop is going to be quick, but what are you hearing on the 44 situation, Jamie?
Well, he just checked in with the team, and Andy Lally brought up a good point. He said, we are so close on fuel right now. A yellow would certainly help us make it, but the problem is it still probably won't be enough because the other guys who've already made that pit stop, they'll be able to run rich. In order for them to make it to the checkered flag, they would have to run almost at full lean, and that's just not enough power to fight for the checkered.
Yeah, look at Damian Faulkner, who is, to my chagrin, in a Porsche. And there's the number 44 car, the defending champions in class. Richard Leitz is in the car.
Just short, you know, of being able to do it with a big yellow would save them all, but that's gambling once again. These other guys are locked in, and they're locked and loaded. They're running faster lap times, Calvin, like you said, so they're running them from arrears.
It's going to be a fascinating battle here from the strategy standpoint.
Richard Leitz, a factory Porsche driver. There are 10 worldwide Porsche factory pilots. 8 of them, plus 2 of their rising junior stars, are in this race.
Montoya's got the hammer down. TK talked about it, another lap in the mid-141s. I think his directive is here, just lay the hammer down, try and get as much of a gap to the rest of the field. You will need a splash of fuel. Is anyone else behind him saving enough to eliminate that? It's 30-odd seconds just coming down pit lane plus the splash. That is a huge difference.
He has about 13 seconds on Max Angelelli, about a minute on A.J. Allmendinger. Those guys in the Ganassi pit have a lot to think about. Final pit stops are coming. We'll be back in just a moment, live at Daytona. Just under 20 minutes remaining in the Rolex 24 at Daytona. There is your race leader, Juan Pablo Montoya for Chip Ganassi Racing. If he can hold on, he will pick up his 3rd victory overall in this race, and he will make his teammate Scott Pruitt a 5-time winner overall, tying the great Hurley Haywood for most overall victories in this race.
The team's 5th victory in the last 8 years. What a remarkable record. The team has won 3 championships in a row. They are the dominant force, but it is not easy. It is close every year, but they continue to execute at the highest level.
Second place, Max Angelelli running 14.5 seconds behind Juan Pablo right now. It really comes down to fuel mileage as far as I can see. I mean, you look at 3rd place, A.J. Allmendinger, well, he's already on fuel conservation mode. He's running 2 seconds a lap, average, slower than these other 2 cars. I still don't think that's enough, though.
Angelelli's 15, 16 seconds behind. We'll have to see what it is when he hits the stripe. And trim down pit lane, there's around 30. So for Montoya, if he does have to hit pit lane and Max doesn't, he's then in catch-up mode with not much time on the clock. So it's all about fuel right now.
15.1 that lap through. You know, you're talking about Michael Shanks thinking that AJ can make it. You know, that'd be far-fetched. If he could make it, though, Calvin, he's holding a good card.
Absolutely. Ford has been getting good mileage. BMW has a lot of power here this year. Typically, when you got good power, Dorsey, you're burning fuel.
Absolutely right. That car has been burning more fuel. No doubt on if it comes to a sprint race who's going to win it, but I think this could be a fuel race.
There's Allmendinger.
He's laying back. He's lifting up the throttle well before start-finish line, letting the thing coast down, doing what he can do from behind the wheel. But boy, he's got a long way to go to make up that much fuel mileage.
As TK said, this stage of the game, you are mentally exhausted. Did they make a mistake, or were they confident of their fuel mileage? The car had to come to a complete stop. It was going to take that mechanic a couple of seconds to clear out the radiators, so there's no loss by topping it, or it would have literally been topping him up.
In my eyes, even if he makes it, it's a mistake either way, because it was something that was given to you that you didn't take.
Calvin, you keep talking about the delta down pit road, so 30 to 35 seconds just to drive down it, 5 seconds of fuel at the most, and then you've got to consider the decel on the way in and the run out of pit lane. So what are you thinking the delta needs to be between first and second, or what have you? How close do you need to be to take advantage of the person in front of you if they fuel?
Well, I mean, you want to be inside of that so you at least gain the track position. So for Max Angelelli, he knows that he needs to keep this within 30 seconds. Right now it's about half that margin. So if Montoya hits pit lane and Max doesn't, the advantage goes to Max. I don't think Montoya's got enough time to get that gap back.
Well, and then the next question is, if you know you need it, when do you come and get it? The sooner you come to get it, the longer you have to make up the time you've lost.
Exactly, because they're not topping up their fuel tank, so it'll be a time fuel. They'll know exactly how long they need to, you know, connect that probe and get fuel into the car. So it doesn't really matter. You're going to need X amount of fuel if it stays green to get to the finish. Doesn't matter whether you do it on this lap or the lap when the car's running out of fuel. It'll be the same time stationary.
And the one more thing to consider, which I was about to bring up, Calvin, is on one of those hurried stops like that, you run the risk of making a penalty. Somebody not wearing their face mask properly or speeding on pit lane. There's some other things involved that could happen.
Timmy Keane would love a yellow right now. He'd lose the gap, but it would take away this decision, certainly. And then everyone would be in the game, and he has a fast race car.
It's extraordinary how this race has come down to such close finishes in recent years. Consider that the Rolex 24 was once won by Hurley Haywood, Danny Younggeis, and Ted Field by a margin of 49 laps. 188 miles. I can't remember the last time we had a
trouble here for
a race
Bruno's
decided
Porsche.
by more than one lap. As you see the 59, speaking of Hurley Haywood, the famous Bruno's Porsche branding.
Something wrong there. He made no attempt to even try not to go off-road. I don't know if it's blown up or... But he's just going straight. There's something wrong.
Yeah, they have rebuilt that car basically from scratch about twice in the pit lane.
He just gave up on that car totally. I mean, made no attempt whatsoever to keep it on the racetrack.
These guys are not committed to a full season at this stage. They're going to hit the next 3 rounds, we believe, at Austin, Barber, and Road Atlanta, and then they're working on some sponsorship packages, but no guarantee that they're going to see the full season. He seems to have speed again, so not quite sure what's up there.
We've officially covered 700 laps. At least the race leaders have. The record is 762 laps, but that was back in 1992, a Nissan R91 CP that I believe set the lap record at an astonishing pace back to the wild and crazy old horsepower days.
What a performance by this group here. Just incredible. Yeah. Napleton Racing. They started the Cayman project back in 2009. They've actually built 70 of this style Inter-Series cars. They built Jack Baldwin's Cayman that won in World Challenge last year. They also won with Chris Gleason, and that's essentially the car that won in Mid-Ohio last year. Was the car they've sort of like converted into this GX spec car, led by Ron Barnaby. They got Mike Colucci as the team manager here this weekend, an engineer. So great group of guys. David Donohue's won here overall. Shane Lewis is on a roll. He won in class at Dubai, the 24-hour race. He's had 4 victories. He said the last 4 races he's done, he's won. He said, I'd love to go one more and get that Rolex.
Less than 14 minutes to go now. Back to the battle in GT. Felipe Albuquerque in the number 24 Audi R8. Will he need to stop?
I think it's going to be close. I think they're within about 5 minutes, and they're certainly rolling the dice a little bit. But I tell you what, the man who has all of those permutations in his head right now is standing by with Jamie Howe.
Alex Joe, it's come down to the closing stages of this race. You have 2 cars that are still in this thing. How are both of them?
Very low on fuel.
Which one will have to come in first?
Well, I'm hoping that one of them won't have to come in. The other one I'm not sure about yet.
You're being very, very descriptive in your answers here. Is it the 24 or the 23 that's lowest?
Yeah, it's one of those.
All right. He's holding his cards close to his chest.
What a performance by this group. They had a GT win here back in 99, but since 1995, this team's had 67 sports car wins. So they now get the job done. They got 2 bullets in their gun from different manufacturers. An amazing performance from the whole WeatherTech team.
And as they run right now, they could get a 1-2 in GT.
Now hearing on the radio communication. Oh, now we're hearing that it may not be the case. We thought we heard the 10 car. That's been told to pit.
Now the pit is telling the car, stop. No, don't stop. Well, we're not sure. Yeah, I'm sure they know other teams are listening.
Yeah, I was just thinking to myself as they did that, Montoya was right by pit entrance. I would have, if the team had been quick off the trigger, he may have pulled in then. That would have been a very sweet move.
Well, they've had other things to think about. How about this moment in the chicane?
That was dodgy.
Down the inside of a GT car.
If the 10 pits, the 01 has got it, because they're the only ones who are in shouting distance. AJ Allmendinger is too far behind. I think that the 01 can afford a trip down pit lane and still keep track position on the 60, even if he stays out. TK, what do you think?
Exactly. I mean, the 10 really is the wild card, because if the 10 can go to the end, they've been running quite a bit slower. So if they're saving fuel, Montoya you said Tim would want a yellow, which he would, to get into the pits and have a shootout. We're getting close to where if you go yellow, you're not going to get green again. So there's all kinds of different permutations here, and it's crazy to think that this could somehow slip away from target Chip Ganassi, Chip Ganassi with Felix Sabates. But we won't know until we know exactly how much fuel is on. I think we know that the 01 is going to have to stop as quick as they've been running. The 10 is the real question mark in my mind.
Yeah, the yellow, I think, gets him in the window of being able to stay out there and not need a trip down pit lane, TK. But this is the big question mark. Does the 10 have enough? The 60 is not close enough to Montoya, even if they don't visit pit lane. This is the big one. Can they pull off what would really be a surprise victory? All of the rumbling and grumbling in the paddock for the last 5 days. Can Chevy pull it off? Here we see Mike Cullen, Chip Ganassi in communication here about the situation.
Oh, this one in two. If the 01 and the 10 both stop, does the 60 need to?
There's enough gap that I think the 01 could still get out in front of the 60. So I think at this point, I think it's down to those two.
Yeah, this is a two-horse race right now.
Now, if neither of them can make it, and they have to stop, and then you get a yellow, they're trapped behind the 60, who's too far back, and then you don't have time to go green again. So that's another one to think about.
But through all this and all these permutations, you saw Wayne Taylor, and he was smiling. You saw Chip Ganassi, and he was smiling. You saw Alex Job, and he was smiling. These guys have been doing this their entire adult lives, and they love it.
A lot of hoping going on, it sounds like.
Well, the thing is, at this stage of the game, you just got to roll the dice. I mean, you have a reserve. It's not like you're just going to flat run out on the racetrack. You have a reserve. When you get to that reserve where the engine coughs, you switch to that other pump, Dorsey. You know how much time you got left. So,
you know, around here, when you hit that reserve, depending on where you are, you got to come in that next time around.
But this is why, when you see Wayne Taylor and Chip Ganassi smiling, they live for moments like this. They've had so many of them, but this is the game they play. It's high-stakes poker. It's at the top of the tree, and it is just brilliant. It's great to be in these situations year in and year out.
9 minutes to go.
They've played it right to the last, and nobody yet knows who will win.
Think about it. Not only is this win at stake.
Oh, you heard it there. Reserve light on, pit this lap.
Okay, here it goes. What I was starting to say is you've got Pruitt trying to tie Hurley Haywood. You've got Riley going for their 9th straight victory. There's a lot of, you got the BMW versus Chevy versus Ford battle. Lots at stake.
Lots at stake. I cannot believe that Chevy's going to get 8 more minutes of run time over this BMW. We know it's been burning fuel with the power it's been delivering here this weekend, but that is a huge delta.
Oh yeah, then there's this. It's the GT battle for second you're looking at, and third.
Well, that answers my question. The 44 clearly has been in major save mode if the 52 has been able to run him down like that.
Look at Rene Rast. He was driving for the car that he's right behind right now last year and took it to victory. Right now, he's been burning fuel. He and the 69 car, they made those pit stops. They topped up with fuel. They are hard charging right now. The 3 cars in front of him, Felipe Albuquerque, Marcus Winkelhock in the 2 Audis, and now Richard Leitz. Seems like the 23 must have made a pit stop because they're falling out of the top 5.
Yep, Damian Faulkner in the 23, Alex Stroh, WeatherTech Porsche, did make a pit stop and drop back.
Albuquerque is really the wild card. I think he's actually stretched the lead enough that he could even afford a trip down pit lane and still maintain the lead. That's going to be the key. Can he get in and out of pit lane and keep the lead of this motor race?
Here comes the leader in class, the 24 WeatherTech Audi for a splash.
This is going to be tight.
So Alex has played his hand. It's up to the drivers now.
now the race leader, Juan Pablo Montoya, pits at the Ganassi garage.
And that's Trevor Montgomery on the fuel rig there. He's putting in 4, 5, 6 seconds of fuel right now. It's going to be, that was 8 seconds of fuel going into the car, plus the 35 seconds or so down pit road here. So that's about, 43 seconds that they're going to give up on the racetrack. And Tim Keene on the radio reminding Juan Pablo Montoya, do not speed down pit lane here. We don't need that violation.
The key was, Bob, they didn't cut it too close. Sometimes you see these guys take a splash, there's not enough. It doesn't matter. If the number 10 car doesn't hit pit lane, they're not going to get victory anyway, so make sure you have enough fuel to get to the finish.
Good call there. It's up to the 10 now. Can he make it?
Have another lead change.
And that is the 24 getting out in front of the 13, the 44, and the 52 for the GT lead.
That will be it. Wow, what a performance by Albuquerque. He stayed out on worn tires and spread the gap to the rest of this GT field. Now he has it, and he has enough fuel on board. Great performance.
And they're all bunched together. Now let's get more on the 10-car situation. The new race leader, here's Matt.
Bob, about 10 minutes ago, Wayne Taylor told me they were going over their calculations, and it was so close. They kept going back and forth. 5.5 minutes left. They just told him he was going to have to hit pit road for a few seconds of Sunoco race fuel. The fueler up on the wall, waiting for the 10 car to hit pit road.
Kurt Simon calling in. Took this time. Watch the car here.
This is the race right here. Max Angelo ducks it down the pit lane. Going to put it back in the hands of Montoya for victory.
Watch your pit speed.
Question is now, will they be able to maintain second over Allmendinger? That may be tight.
4 minutes, 50 seconds. Can Allmendinger stay out?
And if he can't, how important will that pit stop have been to clean the radiators but not take fuel?
Good point. It would have been awesome.
I don't think they would have won the race by taking the splash when they cleaned the rad, but I think it cost them second place potentially here today.
Okay, we're good for the end of the race. Watch the pit speed.
That is our record extending 74th lead change. As the battle continues on track in GT.
It's a great battle. Rene Rast in the APR Audi. Now up to third spot. Got the hammer down. Can he make any further progress through this field? Audis run 1, 2, and 3. What a performance. Rast is coming. Does he have anything for Albuquerque?
Boy, all these guys are out of time. They're skating around these GT cars like crazy. And they're giving it all they got. 3.5 minutes left.
24 car only took fuel on that last stop. So Rast tires will be a little bit better. Remember, he took fuel and tires when he stopped a lap ahead of the 69 machine. So Rast car may be a little bit healthier here, but he's only got 3.5 minutes on the board. This is the battle for the win in GT, right in front of you. Here comes our overall leader, Montoya.
Oh, meanwhile, Wayne Taylor.
He lives and breathes this. He really does.
You thought he was joking when he said he might have a heart attack watching this race unfold?
Maybe not.
I think I saw about 6 different symptoms right there in that one picture.
He is so passionate about his racing, so passionate about his son's careers, and he wants to represent his new partners in the best possible way. He was gutted when they qualified 12th the other day. He said, this is unacceptable. We put too much effort into this program to be qualifying 12th, but what a rebound.
Juan Pablo held up a little bit between this big fight going on in GT. Nowhere for him to go as all the cars are in front of him are fighting for position. 2.5
minutes to go, and the leaders in the overall and the GT class are running within a few feet of each other.
Question is the 13 Winkelhock, does he have enough fuel to get to the finish? He is really stretching it right now. He's on his 27th lap.
We expect a white flag next time by.
He's on fumes.
And if the 01 gets around them, they'll have to go one lap less, which is going to happen right here. But something to consider, unlike when you have Audi Sport running the LMP cars, Dr. Ulrich can say, hold position. But you've got the 13 that he can't really tell to not challenge the 24, because those are individual teams that are fighting for individual glory. Interesting.
Here comes Rene Rast with the fresher tires. I think he's going to finally get by up here.
I think he's going to have a run here. He's been really good on the brakes down at the chicane up against the Ferrari. Now he goes Audi versus Audi. Winkelhoff takes to the inside. Does he have enough? Tries the over and under, does Rene Rast. Difficult to do right here. He's got to really key on a good clean exit here out of the chicane. Winkelhoff, though, has the hammer down and actually gaps him. Turns the tables.
Winkelhoff did a really good job on the second part of that chicane and got a better exit shot.
Felipe Albuquerque continues to lead in the WeatherTech Audi. DTM star won the Race of Champions up against the likes of Michael Schumacher, burst to prominence.
The white flag waves over Juan Pablo Montoya. 1 lap to go here at the Rolex 24, and everything is still up in the air.
What a performance, Dorsey.
Boy.
He has been on fire. The car has been on fire. Everyone has played their part. Memo Rojas, Scott Pruitt, going for another championship and another overall win. Charlie Kimball did a couple of stints during the course of the night, but Montoya has been the man. He's been on fire.
Long time since I've seen such a dominant car in a race from the beginning of a 24 all the way throughout. But that car is solid.
Battle for second. Here comes Rene Rast down the inside. Deep on the brakes. He's got fresher tires. Can he make it stick?
This will work because next is a left-hander.
Yep, he's got the line now and the position.
Final lap of this race, though. He's only got about half a lap to try and catch Albuquerque for the win.
Audi, Audi, Audi in GT.
What a performance by those guys.
Boy, oh boy, I want to tell you.
GT has been fantastic race.
So it's looking like another set of Rolex watches for the boys from Ganassi. There they are, Pruitt and Rojas on the pit wall, Charlie Kimball behind them. The other boys have watches. They'll just add to their jewelry boxes. But for Charlie Kimball, who came to this race never having shared a race car before, never having driven with a roof over his head, and never having driven at night, as the 13 slows in the battle for GT.
Answers that question.
Out of fuel. Charlie Kimball will pick up his first watch as Juan Pablo Montoya brings Chip Ganassi Racing with Felix Sabatis and their BMW Riley to victory at the Rolex 24 again. 5-4-8. And there is your winner in GT, Felipe Albuquerque in the WeatherTech Audi from Alex Job Racing. High fives all around.
What a performance. Scott Pruitt ties the legendary Hurley Haywood. There's celebration donuts from Felipe. What a great day for that team. Audi are here. 1-2 for Audi. It looks like Wilkins jumped up into the third spot with Winkelhock running out of fuel.
Audi, Ferrari in GT.
That's a lonely trip home with that 13 out of gas on the last lap.
Marcus Winkelhock, a GT class world champion, gave it everything he had. And there's your winner in GX. The Napleton Porsche Cayman in the hands of David Donahue, who has driven a long, long time to end this race. Will pick up the first victory in the new class.
Not a mark on that car, front to rear, side to side. These guys have done their job.
And that came off the Napleton showroom floor. What a performance by David Donahue and that whole group. David was pulling double duty here this weekend at DP as well. Great job.
And so the results will be tabulated. Yet another dramatic Rolex 24 is in the books, but we still have to hear from the conquering heroes, and we'll do that in Victory Lane at Daytona in a moment. Welcome back to Daytona, where the 2013 Rolex 24 was another dramatic shootout to the very end. Time to hear from the winners. Let's get down to Victory Lane and Chris Neville.
I believe the 10 car would have to come in a pit. It did. allowed them then to get the lead and win by 21.
Well, Chris is waiting in victory lane. They have to get the car in.
Tight turn down there, and there's too many people in the
I was going to say, they have to unload the bus before it goes back to being a race car. JP looks fresh as a daisy in there.
It's tough.
Well, the distance covered.
Here we go. They got it finally rolling.
There you go. 709 complete laps, 2,524.04 miles. And now Scott Pruitt and Memo Rojas ride the fenders into victory lane here. What a moment. And I'm sure as often as the Chip Ganassi Racing with Felix Sabates crew has done this, it just never gets old.
Pruitt just laid across the hood, gave the windshield a kiss.
Well, a guy like Scott, you know, you have to be wondering whether he's thinking, you know, how many more of these am I going to see at 52 years of age?
It's absolutely amazing what, you know, what kind of shape he keeps himself in, and his desires never dwindle to be a winner.
Like his wine, he keeps getting better with age. Yeah.
74 lead changes. That is a new unofficial record. Now it's time to party. And out come the flags. 22 nations represented in this year's driver lineup at Daytona.
Well, now we got a car and some drivers down here, Bob. These guys up on the car. This team, 5 wins in the last 10 years that they've been running. Scott Pruitt up on the hood of the 01 right now. Hey, Scott, can we get you to come down here with that bum ankle? 5th win, buddy. You are now tied in the record books with Hurley Haywood. How does that feel?
It's unbelievable. I mean, to get the Telmex BMW to victory lane, all the guys did a terrific job. I mean, you look at what we've been able to achieve. It's been nothing short of incredible, and I've been just so proud to be a part of it with Chip and all the guys. And again, those guys make it happen. They just do an incredible job.
Yeah, this group of great drivers behind him. We've got Charlie Kimball up here, the rookie on the team. This team has won this race with so many rookies over the years, so you've got to be pretty excited about your chances coming in just knowing that fact.
Yeah, it's pretty special. I mean, the whole Chip Ganassi Racing team, the 01, the 02, these guys do such a good job all year. I mean, 3 back-to-back-to-back championships is a big credit. I just had to come in and learn and not get into too much trouble and let them keep us in the race.
And Memo Rojas up here, a reigning champion from last year with Scott Pruitt. And Memo, you guys get your 3rd win. That's got to feel great.
It's amazing. It's unbelievable. You know, we worked so hard. It was a tough race last year for us, and you know, coming from 2012 season, we set our goals really high, and my hats off to this team, to all my teammates, and Telmex Ganassi Racing, because, you know, they did a hell of a job.
Juan Pablo Montoya down on the end. Did those last couple hours of work in the car. And Juan, last time you were in victory lane was back in 2008 here. I asked you last year if you minded coming and doing this race every year, and you kind of said, yeah, it's all right, but it's got to feel pretty good to be here.
It feels great, you know, in this car, in the 01, you know, the Telmex Target, I've been on it 4 times. I got 3 wins and a 2nd, so I can't complain, you know. Everybody at the Chip Ganassi Racing keep doing an amazing job, and it's always fun to come like this.
And I'm looking around for Chip Ganassi down here, but there's such a big crowd. Hard to, oh, here he is. He's way back up here in the back. Going to try and squeeze in here real quick and see if I can get with Chip. Chip, what a run for you guys. 10 years in a row running this race. You guys have won it 50% of the time.
I'll tell you, Chris, my hat's off to Mike Hall and the guys in Indianapolis. They're the guys that really deserve the credit. You know, I'm just the guy that gets to put it all together. And, you know, I'm the guy that's got my name on it, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people on this team that do a lot of hard work. I want to thank our sponsors, Telmex and Target, of course, all the Target people in Minneapolis, Telmex people in Mexico City. Thank you for everything you do for us. Made this victory possible. We had all our drivers here. We had we had two bullets in our gun when we started this thing, and we ended up with only 1 at the end there. And it was a great day.
The only team that has won this race more times is Brumos. Jamie?
And we have big celebrations happening now for the number 24 Audi from WeatherTech. Felipe Albuquerque took the car to the checkered flag. Felipe, you got out of the car. You kept saying this is unbelievable. What was the most unbelievable part?
I just, I jumped on the car. We knew that would be almost impossible. We were one lap down and it was like 2 hours to go. And I was already really tired, but let's go. Why not? And the things came to us and it was just perfect. We had a little bit of problems with the gear, so I said that's it. And then in the end, the strategy was just perfect. When I just had to jump in front of the both Audis, they were really quick and they could risk more. And the last lap was just crazy. It looked like so hard, the last corners, but made it safe.
We saw how hard you were pushing Oliver Jarvis. Lots of success in DTM, but coming in and running this R8 at the 24 Hours of Daytona, what was the experience like?
It's been fantastic, but big thanks to this little guy here. He's only short, but what a guy. He pulled us through them last 2 hours. Fabulous job. Big thank you to the team, Alex Job Racing, WeatherTech. It's been a superb weekend. Just a big thank to all the guys that made it happen.
Dion von Moltke, you've been pushing hard the last couple of years racing here in the state. A lot of training went into this, a lot of preparation. What does this win mean to you?
I can't put it in words. Like Ollie said, the team was just terrific. Felipe, I've never seen such a great drive in my life before. That was unbelievable. And the teamwork, the chemistry, my co-drivers, WeatherTech, the Audi R8 worked perfectly. It lasted the whole race, and it was just unbelievably quick at the end. So I can't put it into words.
Eduardo Matara, you've raced the R8 before around the world. Coming to Daytona, though, put this victory into words.
Fantastic. I've got no words. So much stress towards the end, and Felipe did a fantastic job. I mean, he drove a fantastic race. Thanks to all the guys, the crew, the engineers. They did a fantastic job. The strategy was awesome, was impressive, and only with such a great, fantastic crew, we could do this victory. So, thanks.
Certainly a team effort. Congratulations, guys. Matt Yoakum.
And across the paddock here with the Napleton team, David Donahue, brand new class. Most guys only dream about winning this race once, but now your second one. What does this mean for you?
This is fantastic. I've struggled the last couple of years, and my last win was the 09 win here, and this one was really different, because we could pace ourselves in that one. It's like I had a gun to my head for right to the checker flag. So it's all thanks to Napleton, the guys behind me. Napleton Porsche did a fantastic job. They're a premier Porsche dealer, and their level of preparation just transcended right into the race team. And we came out with a superior car, and it showed from the drop of the green flag, and even at the roar. I mean, we were the ones to catch.
And right alongside Shane Lewis, you shook the rust off of the 24-hour Dubai. Your last 4 starts, you scored a win. Now you're 5 for 5.
I know it's been an awesome month. Winning 2 24-hour races in 1 month, but nothing sweeter than winning the Rolex here. Great group of guys, as David said, the Napleton group. Awesome guys, awesome guys. Thank you guys, right here. Thank you.
And Jim Norman, real quick, describe what it means to win here at Daytona.
Well, this is, I've been coming to this race since I was a little boy, dreaming about being here with my heroes, and finally it's a dream come true. Not just to be with them is one thing, guys like Shane and David, but to actually win, truly an amazing dream come true.
And Nelson, brand new class. It only happens one time that someone can become the first winner. Describe what this means for you and your racing resume, and for this whole group.
Well, it means a lot for me, not just for me, also for my country. It's the first victory that any Venezuelan driver here, so I'm so happy. Thanks to Napleton, Jim Norman, who called me, and he bring me aboard. I'm so happy with the team. They gave us a great car, an awesome job from my teammates.
Special win. These guys are like one big family down here, Bob.
And here's a note. First win for everybody in that crew except David Donahue. First win for each of the drivers in the winning GT car. And for Scott Pruitt, his record-tying 5th overall win in Daytona Prototype. Also his record-extending 40th career Rolex victory. More to come. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway after a dramatic and thoroughly exciting running of the 2013 Rolex 24 at Daytona, kicking off the Grand Am Rolex Series for 2013. Our Sunoco moved the race, the final pass for the lead on a day that saw a record 74 lead changes. Juan Pablo Montoya ran down Max the Axe Angelelli to take the lead. He would give it up, but then get it back on final splashes for fuel and bring it home. Scott Pruitt, Memo Rojas, Juan Pablo Montoya, and Charlie Kimball. Scott Dixon entered in that car, but he did not drive it. And here are the unofficial results for the GT category, as Felipe Albuquerque, Oliver Jarvis, Eduardo Mortara, and Dion von Molke lead a 1-2 for Audi and came so close to a 1-2-3 if the number 13 car had just a little bit more fuel. And in the GX category, Shane Lewis, Jim Norman, David Donahue, and Nelson Kanash take the 75th class victory at Daytona for Porsche. Here's our Royal Purple outperformer of the race. Congratulations to the WeatherTech team from Alex Job Racing, winning the GT category, and Felipe Albuquerque put an exclamation point on it with some very cool donuts. I don't know how many Audis have done that in worldwide racing recently. Let's go to Chris Neville.
Well, Max Angelelli finally getting some fluids in him after hopping out of the car and being pretty worn out there. But, Max, you guys worked so hard. You finally got that track position on that last caution. But when Juan Pablo went by you, you still didn't give up the fight.
No, never. I told everybody in my team I would never give up, and they know me. But, look, this is the Velocity Worldwide team. They made it happen, not me. They made it happen with pit stops and strategy just absolutely perfect. So it's their win.
Wayne, we've gotten so used to seeing the emotions on your face over the years. Once again today, we just saw you filled with emotions. Is it tough to see this team and what happens, or are you at least kind of happy after last year getting out in the first 30 minutes of the race? At least you're starting out the season strong.
Really happy. Coming into the season, we've all been excited, with this new partnership and Team Chevy, and having Ryan Hunter-Ray winning the championship last year, driving with me back in 2006, coming with us. Max, of course, is my family, who's part of everything, and then Jordan coming on board this year, and there was so much expectation, and there was so much drama coming into this race with horsepower and this and that and whatever. In the end, I felt that this team did more than anybody else. I don't remember one pit stop that we didn't beat everybody, and everybody just executed perfectly, and we were just about there.
Great run for the IndyCar champion, and Jordan Taylor, who's taken the baton from his brother Ricky. Bob?
Outstanding effort. That crew has a lot to be proud of. There's a look back at some of the celebrations. Young drivers winning their first at legendary Daytona. We'll be back. The Rolex 24 at Daytona is presented by Rolex, official timekeeper of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Brought to you in part by WeatherTech Automotive Accessories. Shop WeatherTech.com today. And by Continental Tire, innovative technology, driving confidence. It's been a long day of racing here at Daytona International Speedway, literally an entire day. The Rolex 24 is now in the books. Let's start wrapping things up now by joining our colleagues Brian Till, Tommy Kendall, and Justin Bell at our Speed Infield studio.
Well, thanks, Bob. I think the word that I have for this is epic. Tommy used it earlier, but also privileged. Privileged to be a part of history, watching Scott Pruitt win his 5th overall win here at the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and just it just doesn't seem to ever get any better. Every year we talk about how deep the talent is, and it does not disappoint. And this year, I said it in the open at the very beginning of the show, it seems like, guys, this year the talent in both the teams and the drivers, and I'll throw in manufacturers now with Audi jumping in the deep end of GT, it just doesn't get any better.
Well, it's one of those things. At any moment of the race, you could look down the screen, and it was just stacked and stacked and stacked with talent. But for me, Scott Pruitt winning his 5th, but the way they use Montoya, here's a guy who's won Indy, he's won Monaco, he's won race after race after his 3rd Rolex. For him, it needed to matter. And Chip Ganassi and Tim Keen realized that, put him in that role, and turned him loose. Flawless performance. Wayne Taylor was just as flawless, just not quite enough speed.
And if our sport of sports car racing is to not just survive but prosper in an era when there's so much options for a viewer, it has to be entertaining. And entertainment has to be of a caliber that captures the imagination of not just current fans but future fans. And if anyone heard of, watched, or will tweet or Facebook about how good this Rolex 24 was, we will grow our sport. And I think that's, for me, one of the biggest take-homes. All the technical stuff's great, but the sheer entertainment of this race will guarantee we're going to grow.
You talk about growth, just think of 2014 when the American Le Mans Series joins the Rolex Sports Car Series into one. And you think about the potential growth that is available there, and races like we saw here today. You put those two together, 2014, the rest of the future looks very bright indeed. Bob?
All right, thanks very much, guys. Time for final thoughts up here in the booth. Why don't we start with you, Calvin?
Well, it was a fantastic race, a real duel as we expected, and a real shootout at the end. For the 01, it was their race to lose, and they didn't lose it. Perfect execution. Juan Pablo Montoya was on fire, ably supported by the rest of the boys there. The 10 team, well, they had the perfect race, but it wasn't enough today. And for the 60 team coming back to try and repeat, they had that massive problem. They dug deep. They got back on that lead lap. They didn't quite have enough speed. They finished without that final splash for fuel, but I think they had to throttle A.J. Allmendinger back, so he really wasn't a factor at the end.
You know, everybody applauds the winner all the time. I want to applaud the other teams that kept this good race. I mean, we had a team that was dominant, a car that was faster than any other car. But through strategy, we had a really good race because these guys stayed in the game. They never gave it up. Both classes, excellent race.
A couple of years ago, when Chip Ganassi Racing with Felix Sabates won this race, I wrapped up the show downstairs by saying, if you want to win the Rolex 24, go dig up Chip Ganassi. Those guys simply know how it's done. They are back in victory lane, extending their record for success in this race. But I also have to think a little bit about Audi, who put on such a tremendous show this weekend. Racing always changes, and I think the German brand is bound to be a force in the future. We hope you've been with us for all of our 15 hours of live speed coverage of America's premier long-distance endurance sports car race. For our entire speed crew and my colleagues Calvin Fish, Dorsey Schrader, Brian Till, Tommy Kendall, Justin Bell, Jamie Howe, Chris Neville, Matt Yoakum, and Andrew Marriott. Don't forget, coming up tonight, Mario Andretti visits with Adam Alexander in Speed Center, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, to announce the Speed Performer of the Year. Congratulations not only to the drivers who will win a Rolex watch for being tops in their class at the Rolex 24, but for each and every one of the 56 cars that started this race, their drivers and crews. Being here at Daytona racing the Rolex 24 is a privilege. I'm sure they tell you getting to the finish itself is a victory. We'll leave you with a look at some of the video highlights of the race just run. For all of us at Speed, I'm Bob Varsha. So long from Daytona International Speedway.